What's the first thing women notice? Your face. That's why you got to take care of. Simple things like getting a haircut, grooming your face, and brushing your teeth is important. But there's one thing guys miss and that women always notice. It's when a guy isn't taking care of his skin. That's why I'm so excited to have T. Shanley as a sponsor of today's video. T. Shanley simplifies the process of taking care of your skin. They provide you with all the products you need and nothing you don't. Seriously, I don't think some of you believe me when I tell you how much implementing a quality skincare routine will improve your confidence in all aspects of your life. I recommend you start with the level 1 system, which comes with all the basics: daily face wash, exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer with an SPF 20 and a PM moisturizer. But there's and to make it dead simple for you guys, they provide an instruction card in every box that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. But because T just sponsoring this video, they're offering you an amazing deal. Just click the first link in the description and get 40% off your first skincare system and free gift. Plus, as a member, you'll get 20% off for life. By the way, one of their new gift options is a silicone body scrubber, which is a $20 value and a complete game changer. Once you use this, you'll never go back to a regular loofah ever again. So don't wait any longer. Click the first link in the description to start your skincare journey today.
What's going on? What's going on? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Got to get this light situated together, but it's good to see you guys, man. How y'all doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Cool.
Excellent, excellent.
I'm glad you guys are doing amazing. Let me go ahead and introduce the crew, man. We got Mr. Trev Smooth, Ari, Mira, and White Sweeney, Mistaken, Aisha, Darby, Fist, and me, myself, Lapeef JR. Welcome to the Thursday show. It's where it goes down. That is where it becomes controversial on this side of town. That should be a little bit better. Let me increase it a little bit. There we go. To light myself up a little bit, man. So let that be light. I'm going to go ahead and get this out the way. What's going on, Angela Swift? How you doing? Ronald Dale Matthews. VVRO, VROM, however you pronounce it. Well, welcome. BZ, what's going on? Sean Antonio, good to see you, brother. Mark G, how you doing? As you guys come in, hit the like button and also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and share the stream while you at it, man. We are officially live and it feels good to be alive. Welcome back, Mr. Trev. Good to have you back on this side of town. You on mute, just so you know.
Appreciate it. It's good to be back.
Yeah, I hope you didn't take that sweater with you on your travels, man.
Nah, it was anywhere from 85 to 90 degrees every day.
Okay.
So, yeah, no sweaters. Just one
so
hoodie, travel hoodie. That's it.
All right, so you had your open-toe sandals. Okay.
Oh, we don't do those. The toes don't. Not to say my toes are ugly, because they're not.
Okay.
But you know, I generally cover up.
Okay. So you didn't have the thong sandals on this time, huh? Okay.
No thong anything.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, but that was for the back chat, man. I heard you had an amazing interview with someone, so yeah. I'll move on from it, man. You ain't catching. Anyhow, again, good to have you guys in attendance, man. Thank you, man. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you are catching this on replay, do me a favor as well and hit that like button and also make sure you subscribe. So, came across this debate. I do want to break it down, get you guys perspectives and opinions, because I do think that it is a relevant conversation, especially with everything that's going on today. So I'm gonna go ahead and run a little bit of clip. I ask them a few questions in between, and we're going to go ahead and get this show started. Sounds good? All right. Today's topic, gender war or shared struggle, unpacking the rights, custody battles, and toxic masculinity. So I'm going to go ahead and start the roll listen. All right, I'm going to stop it there. Do you guys feel as though men rights are being attacked? Go ahead, Amir. I see you making these expressions. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
Lapeef, I thought Norbit left Resfusia and became an anti-feminist because you would think that after his relationship with Resfusia that he would understand that the plight of women is not what he thinks it is. But here we are. He is a feminist. And he sat there and said, women or people who are identified as women, because it's just a random toss of the dice. When you're born, we don't know what you are. We just roll the dice and see what happens. I'm just so upset right now. The plight of men. It is something that spun out of feminism, but not in the way that the man was saying. He was making it seem like men were searching for a way to have something as the equivalent of feminism because they felt left out. That's not what happened. What happened was, in all the efforts to make women feel equal, we have put them over men in so many ways. And for example, court system, family courts. Instead of it being a fair playing field, the judges are all, pardon my French, pussified. Soon as they see a poussé, they are like, yes, you get all rights, all monies, everything, no matter what. This woman could be a crackhead, a prostitute, a drug dealer, a pimp, and everything. And I've seen it so many times. And she still gets custody and child support, but let the man do one thing. And so anyway, so this is part of the thing that happened, is that we didn't just give an inch. We gave a mile, a kilometer, we gave a yardstick, we gave everything. And as a result of all of that, men are expressing what they are seeing. And it's not the same as feminism, because feminism today is a bunch of BS. Women, name one right that women do not have that men have today. Name me one, and I will concede. If telling you that you cannot kill that baby that's in your uterus is part of me taking away your rights, then I think you have a confusion of what is your right and what is the right of another person at that point.
Would anybody like to respond on the video or what Amir had to say? Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Taken. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts about the video so far about men rights being attacked?
I share a different perspective. I agree with the point of saying, I can't remember which guy said it, that men's rights, there's a difference between rights and inequality, right? So I agree with this statement that I don't think men's rights are being attacked. I do think that there's a level of inequality depending on the situation. Amira brought up a good point in terms of the court system when it comes to custody, although there's some research around that as well about why that happens. But I think what men are feeling is akin to the same thing that white males are feeling when you are accustomed to being in a position of privilege, and people fight against, let's say Black people fighting for like civil rights and things like that, you automatically feel as if things are being taken away from you when people are trying to level the playing field, because then that means you no longer have the same access, so to speak, right? The same privilege. The privilege is being challenged. So I kind of think that is the same level of what men are feeling as women try to, gain equal access to certain, privileges that men have.
So yeah. Oh, I don't think nobody's rights is being under attack. I think it's just rights are being reevaluated based on who's in position of power. And the rights that's in questions is under discretion of the person in power, their moral compass and what they believe is suitable for how the nation should operate. I think it's always been like that. I think the nation was set like that to reserve the right to be able to adjust rights, make changes based on who's in office and who see fit. And I think there's a good argument that if it were not for that reservation, we probably would be 3/5 of a human being in a particular era in time if we wasn't allowed to reevaluate rights. So as far as saying that somebody's rights is under attack, I think it's an extreme phrase. I think it's more suitable to use that rights are under evaluation based on who comes into office, and I yield.
All right, I'm gonna play a bit more of this clip and then we'll get to the rest of the folks. You think that's true, Trev? Do you think that men feel like the world doesn't care about them? We have to prove ourselves.
Partially, and I think Mistaken pretty much hit the nail on the head as far as it's not rights per se, but there are absolutely inequalities. But there have always been inequalities since the beginning of time. There's always been double standards since the beginning of time. I think that the bigger issue is home, right? Because these issues exist, but many of us are impervious to it, right? I don't think Marcus, I don't think Darwin's worried about that. I don't think they want to delete themselves at any point, right? I don't think they're feeling like that. They have the same circumstances as far as being a man and everything else, but they probably had positive role models in their lives that would show them how to handle situations. They would show them how to work under pressure and to deal with controversy, right, or conflict or whatever type of adversity comes their way. And I think that the lack of positive male figures in our lives is a lot more responsible for the issues that men are having, not understanding how to cope, not understanding how to express themselves and deal with their actual feelings and their emotions and learn how to manage them. That's the much deeper problem. Sure, there are some systematic issues that we face on a daily basis, right? And we could even take it a step further and say black man, because we have unique issues that not every man has to deal with, right? But we had to deal with that. We have to understand that if I'm driving through Bergen County, New Jersey, that I'm probably going to get pulled over just straight up because I'm a black man and I am seen as the boogeyman. And that's just what it is sometimes, right? And you just have to understand that the world doesn't care. The world may never care, but you're still going to have to deal with life. You're still going to have to be a man. You're still going to have to raise your children. You're still going to have to be a responsible adult. You're still going to have to work hard. But that type of foundation comes from the family in the first place. We could sit here all day and complain about how the world isn't fair, but life is never fair, not really to anyone. We could try to pinpoint all of our issues that we're faced with, but where is it really going to get us? I don't think we can get to a point right now from where we are where people are just going to all of a sudden care about men's emotions. Like women typically don't really care about our emotions, or maybe I have to be careful how I put it, because maybe they can't empathize with us, right? They see us as a stronger vessel and they expect us to be able to grunt through it. That it's expected of us as a man. And as men, we have to just understand that that's what it is. So the most we can do is support each other. So that's why, like a situation like King Talk or something like that would be great, because other men can discuss these issues. There's certain things that I don't feel like women are going to understand. And it's not because they don't care to, it's because they're not men, right? So they are not going to be able, they can sometimes sympathize with you. And even that's a stretch. But as far as empathizing, it's nearly impossible, because you don't, it's not something that you're ever going to be able to go through and actually feel. And we have to understand that. And you can try your best. And I always talk about how important perspective is, but it's hard for them to see it as we see it. And I think that's the deepest issue. I'll leave it there for now.
Okay. I'm going to get to Ari, Aisha, White, and Sweeney after I play a little bit more of this clip. There. Go ahead, Ari. What are your thoughts about what was just said?
I have a few thoughts. I think one thing that happens oftentimes when we hear words like feminism and patriarchy is that people's brains just turn off. But like there's certain words that have gotten so polarized and so like part of this national debate that we're having, that it's like using them almost immediately just makes the conversation pointless, because people's guard goes up in one way or the other way, right? But I think one thing that I would like to point out is that there's a difference between white feminism and anti-colonialist feminism. And I think that that's important to realize. And I also think that it's important to realize that this is a colonialist idea, that there are these, emotions that men are not allowed to feel, and that there are ways that men are not allowed to act. And I think that's something that hurts men, and it damages the relationship that they have with their children and their maybe female partners or friends or whatever. So I think a lot of this comes down to like, it's men versus women. I don't think that's true. And also to their point about, custody and high rates of, fatherlessness or suicide, right? Like those things are things that matter. And I think they are, discussions that need to be had on a national level. The problem is that people bring them up in response to something else. It's like, don't do that. Talk about it by itself, right? Like we should have discussions about custody that are just discussions about custody, because we all know that like if you tell somebody they did something that bothered you and they immediately come back with something you did that bothered them, like, yeah, that's valid. It's okay. And we should talk about that. But when you say it in response to, women feeling some kind of way, that feels, again, like it shuts the conversation down before it had to be shut down.
Okay. What's wrong, Amir? Oh, okay. Go ahead, M. White.
I don't think rights exist. I think people have privileges, because like the Second Amendment, right? It's supposed to be a right. If you can't walk down the street, well, let me rephrase that. I don't think rights exist because people can take them away from you at any time, and they can violate them and do whatever they want at any time. And the only thing that actually exists is power and weakness. And the people in power can exercise anything they want on anybody that's weak, and they do it. I mean, our rights so-called rights or privileges is afforded through militarization and weapons. You remove that, you remove those rights. So I think the only people that actually have rights are the people in control of guns. So as long as we don't got access to the same type of guns that they got access to, we really don't have no rights. They extending a privilege off the arm, like, yeah, to keep y'all under control, we'll say you got XYZ rights. We don't got none of that shit though. Honestly, they could suspend that shit and send your ass to Guantanamo Bay. We had a place in Chicago called the Black Site, where the police was pulling up on people. You're supposed to have a right from illegal search and seizure, and a right from, being kidnapped, and a right to be documented. They would just pick people off the street, beating them and making them to hold them 2 or 3 days, making them confess the crimes, and then locking their ass up, which take away the so-called voting rights. Like, we don't got no damn rights. We got privileges that we can utilize from time to time that we kind of bank our head on. But if you can't back somebody down and make and enforce the right, it ain't no real right. It don't really exist. It's a social construct of an idea to have a better society. But as long as you're not the one in power, you don't got no right.
All right. I'm coming to you next, Aisha. Let me play a little bit more of this clip and 22. Stop it right there. Go to you, Aisha. They was talking about how men do fight for their kids and how both parents are needed. What are your thoughts about what was just said?
I agree. I think that the as far as the legal system, it is definitely set up. Family court is definitely set up as it's in favor of the woman off top. I've sat on panels, I've done things, because like I've stated before, I think that blood tests should be mandatory. No one should be paying child support for a child if it's not proven that it's theirs. I don't even know how that fell through the cracks. Like, I don't know why we're fighting for that one. So just having brothers and cousins and seeing the things that they've had to go through with the court system as far as it pertains to their, like everybody knows, like the woman is automatically the custodial parent. Like, it's just like an automatic thing. Like when you go through a divorce, it's kind of like you gotta change things in the petition to say, like, we want it to be together. We want joint custody. That's not an automatic thing. Automatically, the woman is the custodial parent. Even when you're talking about people that are on government assistance, the woman is automatically the custodial parent. There is no man available.
Is that state of Illinois? Is that state of Illinois where you don't automatically get joint custody upon divorce?
That was I did mine in Texas.
I just had a divorce 2.5 years ago, and they default to 50-50 unless you ask for it to be different.
Okay, yeah, because I know over here in Georgia, you get a divorce, it's 50-50 by default.
Well, in Texas, it was we had to literally put it in that we wanted, for both of us. It was joint, 50-50 at the time. There was no custodial parent because it automatically defaulted to me. But Texas is a whole different country in their own entity. So
does anybody know any
but
states?
I did notice.
No, go ahead. I didn't know you was finished. Go ahead.
So the next thing that I wanted to say, I was piggybacking off of what M. White said. But the thing about it is the men, they don't want to create these laws, and they put these laws into place because they are the ones that are empowered. So it's always confusing to me when they're like, now they're like, men don't have rights. I don't think that it's a right issue either, because the men are the ones who created the laws and put them into place to begin with. So obviously that's how they felt. The men felt like the women should have custody. The men in power felt like everything should default that way. So I feel like it starts with them. So, I feel like it's kind of like a two-way street. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Because somebody put those laws into place. Somebody built those systems, and it wasn't women. So I feel like the plight that y'all try to make it like women did this. You guys are doing this to us. Women, we didn't go down there and do any of those things.
Actually,
like that was already set up like that. So I think it's a system.
Actually, women did go down there and petition for these type of laws. And the reason why they were put into place was because there was an overcorrection for a minority of women. They overcorrected by doing, default custody and things like that to kind of correct an issue that women typically had complained about, which was some women were complaining about the fathers walking out on their children. So they went and petitioned the courts and petitioned the government for laws to be put into place that will hold those men accountable. The problem is that there was an overcorrection, And also, the laws kind of fit the time at that period of time where women primarily were at home. Women primarily did not have jobs like that. So it was kind of customary for the man to maintain the pay child support and things like that while the woman stayed and took care of the kids. However, that doesn't mean that the problem is that times have been modernized, things have been updated, but we're still going by the same archaic laws. That's the issue that men are fighting against, is changing the laws to be more in alignment with what the current times. The issue is that the problem is that a man shouldn't have to fight for his kids to begin with. That's the protection that men are asking for, is to say, look, she can't go and just strip me of my rights. She can't go where I shouldn't have to go to court to have access to my kids. It should already be my right, just like it's her right for the most part. And then if somebody act a fool, then we can talk about court. That's not the problem that's happening. The problem is that things are being defaulted to the woman, or she takes off with the kids, which typically is what happened. The woman would leave and then she would take her kids with her, because let's keep it a bean. If any of y'all decided to leave your man, he said, over my dead body, you ain't taking my kids with you, y'all will fight tooth and nail to make sure those kids go with you. And 9 times out of 10, when the police show up, they're going to tell him that if it gets out of hand, they're going to either haul him off to jail or protect you in a way where you get to walk away, even with those kids in tow. It won't be where they tell you, the police will show up and say, hey, Aisha, I know you saying that you want to leave, but this is the kid's primary residence, and you cannot leave. You cannot take those kids with you outside the house from their father. That's not what police typically do. They allow you to leave. They allow you to take the children with you. And then once you have the kids with you, you're defaulted to primary custody until y'all go to court. And at that point, now he's fighting you for custody, because court system shouldn't have to exist as long as both parents agree that I get the kids this amount of time, you get the kids that amount of time. The court kicks in because people don't agree. There's always, anytime you hear a situation where there's a fight, it's because somebody is denying somebody something. A woman who has to fight for child support is because the father is denying her the right, denying her money. A father that has to fight for the right to see his kids is because a woman is denying him the right to his kids. If a woman comes up and says, you know what, I understand, we not together anymore, I'm cool with you having the kids 50% of the time, we'll figure out the child support situation, but because we both have them at the same time, it doesn't really matter. I take care of them when they're in my possession, you take care of them when you're in their possession. That's not what happens. If that was the case, most people wouldn't fight. Most people wouldn't even take it to court. What happens is father says, I want the child half the time. Mother says no. And she may say no for a number of reasons. She may say no because you don't pay me enough money. She may say no because she don't like the people you're around. She may say no because she don't like your mama. It doesn't matter. She says no. Now you have to go to court and fight her just to see your own kids. You have to pay for lawyers. You have to pay for this. You have to pay for that. And all she has to do is sit back and say no. So the issue isn't necessarily, it is a rights issue, because by default, that's what they're fighting for. My automatic right to be a parent. I'm entitled to be my child's parent and have my child in my life just as much as the person I co-parent with. I have just as much of a right. And it should be by default. Another thing that they're fighting for is mandatory DNA testing. First and foremost, DNA testing tend to be mandatory when somebody goes for child support, for the most part in a lot of states. I mean, most states that I've been a part of, they require it. But what happens in plenty of states is once a man signs a birth certificate and an acknowledgement of paternity, he can't then double back and find out that the child isn't his. So what men are asking for is saying, hey, why don't we cut the middleman out so that I don't have to fight with my wife? Because what will happen is they will say, well, why don't you just go and get the DNA test? Why don't you just do that? Well, that tends to cause problems in relationships when a man asks for a DNA test from a woman that he's with. So what the men are saying is, let's just cut the middleman out and make it required. I don't care if I have to pay for it. I don't care if it's state funded. I don't care how we figure it out. Before the birth certificate and all of that is signed, we supposed to make sure that both of us are parents to that kid. You DNA test the mom and the dad. We know exactly who the parents are, and then we can move forward from there, rather than having a situation where men are finding out years, decades later that the child isn't his. That's what men are simply asking for. They're asking for the right to their children and a right to the and a right to paternity. That's pretty much it, as far as the court system is concerned.
Go ahead, Amir.
I want to add on to what Aisha said, because Aisha said something that's so important, and she said about mandatory DNA testing. But even to Aisha's point, Aisha, there are so many cases where the man is not the father, and the courts force them to still pay child support on bastard children that are not theirs. It is so unfair in this world right now for men. And to what Sweeney says about the fight, I mean, even when they say it's 50-50, it's not true. They don't enforce things 50-50. Like I gave you guys the example of the mother being the crackhead and dropping the kids off in places, and they'll have mandatory checkups, and you have the women strung out on drugs, the children filthy, haven't been cleaned, haven't been educated, haven't been anything. And the next day, you will see the woman get the children again. But let the man show up late to return the children just once during a child exchange, or let the man anything, any minor thing, and they reduce his rights and they reduce his privilege to his children. These things aren't enforced. And when it comes to women's rights, women talking about their right is the right to kill babies, to kill their fetuses. And I don't understand how that is considered a right. If anybody could explain to me how irresponsibility, I understand we always have the example of rape, incest, and so on and so forth.
Ooh,
Aside from
Amir,
that, that
Amir
should
got
be
messed
the
up,
only
man.
thing. Go ahead.
Watch that R word.
Great. Yeah. Aside from that and incest, that should be the only thing that should be excusable for that. But in the majority of cases, we have 95% of women who go to these abortion clinics, and they're just going there because they had a fling. They were irresponsible. What did it say, like 33 to 35 forms of birth control, and women are refusing to use any of them. But I guess it's a right to kill the fetus instead of being responsible. I'm done.
Well, I was gonna say, when I looked into it, pretty much the same reasons why, and I really don't want to go down this rabbit hole because I think we're really still sitting there trying to talk about, I'm guessing, men's rights. So I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but yeah, typically for baby deletions, it's nearly almost the same reasons why men abandon their children. It's the same reasons. It's it's for money, career, not ready to be a parent, don't like the other parent or the person that they parented with. So it's pretty much the same reasons. But let's not go down that rabbit hole.
All right, and play a bit more of this clip. I guess it's a 29 minute. Like women experience more sexism than men. Anybody can go ahead.
I don't think so. They started getting really weird at that part. That's kind of that boogeyman thing that I was talking about. How they do the men. It started getting weird because when you start making it seem like men are just so dangerous. I mean, there are inherent dangers, but most men don't really operate like that. And as far as like in the workplace and everything else, that whole thing about sleeping your way to the top is crazy because there are plenty of women who actually weaponize the genitals, man. And that's how they actually, you got to understand, it's a survival instinct for many women, and they utilize that. Like, this is real. Like, we're trying to say that, the men, and there are some bad actors out there who are men who will leverage their power and success, but we can't take away from the idea that in most of those situations, the woman is just fine with taking advantage of what she'll get from sleeping her way to the top. We've seen it happen all too often. Men are definitely, it's hard to quantify and say like there's I don't think there's any available statistics. We can only look at it on an anecdotal sense, but I'll just give you my particular experience, right? So it's pretty much an opinion. I've seen at least comparable numbers where there's sexism against men or towards men just as much, in my opinion, because even if you look at certain things, like you're just expected to do certain things because you're a man, right? Like if you could even say something as simple as like this whole chivalry thing, that's sexist, right? If you're going out to take bags, like if you see a woman with bags, you're supposed to help her struggling, whether you know her or not, whether that's your people or not. You're expected to. That's sexist, because if it's a woman, she don't have to do anything. I'm expected to drop what I'm doing to come and assist you. You expect certain things. Even if it's a homegirl of mine or something, she might expect me to pay the bill. A lot of dudes experience that. Just because you are the male figure, you're expected to pay. You're not usually going Dutch, even with friends. We're supposed to be platonical. It's still that advantage woman. So these are things that aren't typically noticed, because men don't really make a big deal out of it because we sound like pussies if doing that. But in real life, there's so much expected of men just because they're men. We are expected of it. And that is absolutely sexist.
I wanted to add, there's something that they said that was very dangerous, was that the sexism that men face is basically feelings based. You know what I mean? And that's very dangerous to say, considering how many people were how men are primarily ones that typically are falsely accused. Men primarily are the ones that have longer sentences for the same crime. I don't think those are things that are feelings based. I think those are very tangible things that happen to men. And sexism is basically prejudice or discrimination based on a person's sex or gender. So to say that men don't face sexism, when you know what I mean, where a man is attacked by a woman and oftentimes he's always assumed to be the aggressor, and he's hauled off to jail, despite the fact that he was not. The fact that he's automatically the person that's seen as not a viable parent, and the mother is. Those aren't feelings based. Those are real world issues that men face that will cause some form of harm to them. So I think it was very extremely dangerous that they limited sexism. The sexism that men face at large is just feelings based, whereas the sexism that women face at large is mostly a danger to their lives. It's not necessarily true, because outside of well, I ain't gonna say outside of great, because that's big. But when we tend to hear women complain about sexism, a lot of the times it's about the workplace as well, or hurting their feelings. I think it's all encompassed. I don't think you should reduce any of the groups to just, their feelings are being hurt. It can be very dangerous for men to experience sexism just as much as it's very dangerous for women to experience sexism.
I think I'm a sexist feminist because
what?
Yeah, I don't believe men and women are equal. I really don't. Like I think that men should not have the same expectations as women on the same levels and all those things, right? So there's my toxic masculinity. However, I do believe women should be afforded the ability to move through this world safely and be protected, which goes back to the men and women are equal thing, because I don't have an expectation for women to protect men. So I do have an expectation, like I think it was Travis when he was saying that you would help somebody with their bags when they go in the house. You would get up when you see a elderly woman or a pregnant woman on the bus and you have the seat. I believe women should be treated fairly and equally, yes. But do I think they are the same? No. So I guess that qualifies as toxic masculinity, feminism, or whatever, if that's a word. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think both experience sexism. Where I think where it differs is who has the power, right? So the impact of the sexism will be different based on who has the power in the situation, right? So because I've seen where, like, if we talk about the workplace, sexual harassment, right? Many times women hold the power in that space. But many times I've seen situations in which if a man had a woman can say something that would be considered sexual harassment to a man, but there's not necessarily any consequence towards that. And what I think it's because, kind of like what you were speaking to, Marcus, a little bit, is the idea behind men are stronger, so they don't have to take what she's saying seriously because she really doesn't have power, right? So they kind of, women get away with saying certain things or doing certain things that is technically sexual harassment, but since it's coming from a female, the punishment for that is not necessarily the same. So so men have learned to, like with the whole Me Too movement, I definitely think that there was a valid start or reason for that movement, but then I think it went way to the left, like so far to the point that I've heard men say, like, you know, I don't even want to engage with women at work. Like I don't even say anything. Just to make sure I protect myself, because I don't want to say anything and it be misconstrued. So I definitely think that when we're talking about sexism, it hurt. It benefits and hurts depending on who's on the receiving end, right? So I just kind of wanted to point that out.
When you said workplace, you mean like somebody catcalling or like flirting or sexual harassment?
Yeah, I mean, I actually experienced it at work, you know, a couple of years back. And I didn't even report it. Somebody else reported it. Because I didn't say anything. I was new at the job, and the male had been a staple person at the school that I happened to be working at that time. And you know, he would make comments. You know, first I was like, you know, and then before, oh, my husband wouldn't like you saying that to me, like coming out actually trying to redirect and say, like, watch what you're saying. And then I actually ended up talking to my direct supervisor. We were cool. And I was like, let me tell you what, you know, such and such be saying. And I'm thinking we're just having a conversation. And then he went and reported it. And for me, being in that situation, it kind of made for me the situation even more uncomfortable.
I understand, because when I used to work, I used to see it all the time. And that particular part you're talking about, it kind of makes me understand why there are certain rules, or some women feel like, or even men feel like they shouldn't even just say anything or be in the same room as a coworker of the opposite sex, because of, I think at one point, I don't know when it happened, but it kind of got out of hand, and I guess maybe y'all got tired of it and start complaining, and men start losing their job as a response to it. So it's
I want to add to
sort of like a
this.
cause and reaction situation.
Women definitely be sexually harassing people at work, like 100% shit. Well, like she said, you just ignore that shit, like whatever.
Pinching
Go
butts.
out there and get it.
Right. So yeah. So I haven't seen it, but I don't put it past it. But the ones who find it a problem are the ones who are going to speak up. So the fact that men don't find it a problem, is it safe to say that men are being sexist against themselves when they don't report?
But that's what I wanted to add on to, because mistaken, I was listening to her and she said that both experience sexism. But I would argue that women don't experience much sexism, little bit. But I would think that men experience more sexism. And the reason I say that is because what women call sexism is usually just truth. And women get offended. Like, example, one way a woman will experience sexism is, oh, hold on, darling. Give me that pickle jar. I got it for you. Why? Because I'm a woman. You think I can't do it? Men experience sexism as women and children first. Women and children first. Titanic. I think women take truth as sexism.
Could I ask you something about the workplace thing? I heard it mentioned just now. Like, is it weird to try and make an advance as somebody who you worked with? There's a high percentage of anywhere between like 30 and 40%, depending on what survey you look at, right? That actually met their spouse at work, right? I think it was higher than that back in the day. It's probably declining now because people are actually terrified to talk to the opposite sex sometimes, right? But is that strange when there's a good amount of people who actually met their spouse at work? And I don't think it's a bad place to meet. I mean, I think that you shouldn't harass someone. I think that's fair to say. I think that there should be some type of threshold that we know, like it, but to not be able to engage at all. I mean, sometimes you get to know somebody there. You might really like them. You might fall in love with them. Shit, I met my wife at work.
I don't
It happens.
think there's anything wrong with it. The problem is knowing your audience, right? So if one, like I'll say in my situation, one, I made it clear, like don't talk to me like that. Try to use the whole, I don't think you want me to call my cousin, my husband up here, like that kind of, it was clear that it was unwanted, but it continued. And
Yeah,
what the going thing was that, oh, he crazy. Like that was the thing. It was his behavior was excused because it was like, oh, he crazy. You could just ignore him, right? So it was never checked. But then when I found out that my when my direct supervisor reported it, come to find out, he already had a record of similar behavior that other women had reported.
What?
So in that regard, my thing is, I think that situation, I should have never been put in that situation because he shouldn't have been there if there were already an ongoing record of this behavior, right?
Yeah.
But it's when men and women are engaging, if the engagement is reciprocal, then it's not sexual harassment. It's when one person is saying, I don't want it, and the behavior continues, that it becomes sexual.
The only thing I want to say about that, right, is,
and we also got Ari and Aisha at the hand. Right?
All right, now I'm gonna be real quick about it. I got you. I just want to say, when you tell your superior information like that, it behooves him to report it. You gave him no choice because he has to just to CYA, right? Because if something were to transpire after that and then it somehow come out, even if you said it in jest or whatever, it does not matter. He's gonna go down with the ship as well. So he had to. The only thing I would suggest, I hope you did at that point, because it kind of sounded like you might have did it in maybe a playful manner, because you didn't want to make it awkward or anything. But I think it's important to make it as clear as possible. If you have to get serious with them, then you just get serious with them, and you just be like, nah, this is not it. It makes me uncomfortable. If you use words like that, this makes me uncomfortable. Just chill out. I am not digging that at all. I think that we could avoid more situations, and it'll kind of check people, right? He shouldn't be doing that, and you shouldn't be put in that situation, right?
me
At
just
all.
respond
Go
Hey, we
one
ahead.
do
thing.
got to get. Hey, we do got to get Ari and Aisha in there, y'all. I know y'all going back
Okay.
and forth, but
Okay, let
yeah,
me
I
just
know
say this one thing. I
everybody
promise.
keeps saying one thing and it's quick and it will still be
No,
long.
it was something that he directly said. I think, again, that is one of those situations where I would say men have the privilege because they don't understand being in a weaker situation when it comes to that. So women have to navigate workspaces a little different. So me coming off, especially with the fact that I'm new to that job. He already has a base of people that he's cool with. And, me trying to make sure that I balance it. So I'm just saying, as a woman, I'm going to experience it a little different than what you see it. So
That's happened to me before, though.
Hold on,
I'm-
y'all. Go Ari. Go Ari. We got to get to Ari and then Aisha.
No, I just wanted to respond a little bit about the original thing that Trev said about, people meeting their spouses at work and things. So I own 2 companies. I hire people a lot. I've let people go for, issues of sexual harassment. And I do a training on sexual harassment every other week, every time I do an orientation. And there's a legal definition to sexual harassment, right? There's 2 forms: it's quid pro quo, or it's what's it called? Hostile work environment. But I ask my trainees every single time, is it sexual harassment to ask somebody on a date? And there's always a few that think yes, but most of them usually say, I don't know. And the answer is, from a legal standpoint, asking a coworker on a date is not sexual harassment. What sexual harassment is, asking them on a date, they say no, and you don't stop. Right? So if you continue, or you're flirting in an inappropriate way, or they say, like you said, that I'm uncomfortable, and you continue, that's when that becomes sexual harassment. And I do think that you make a good point about saying explicitly that I'm uncomfortable. I would say from, a company, like a business owner perspective, it would be great if you said that in writing. Because then, I can bring that to the person when I'm having the conversation about letting them go, or when I'm talking to my legal team. I can say, like, look, I have the screenshot. She told him that she was uncomfortable, and I have the screenshot of him sending her a flirtatious text again, right? So all of that, like, just understanding that there is a legal definition. It's not really this nebulous idea. And it's best if we can be explicit as much as we possibly can. So if somebody were to ask me, or make me uncomfortable, it does help a lot from that legal standpoint to say, I'm uncomfortable, you need to stop, right?
All right, go ahead, Aisha.
I think that there is a difference between sexual harassment and sexism. I mean, I guess a lot of women on this panel, like, we've experienced both. I know personally I have. I feel like I agree in both instances because I'm HR manager for a lot of companies. I've been in HR for a long time. I agree with Aria that when you're doing these investigations, we need as much. I always tell my employees, like, please email me and put it in writing, right? But sometimes it just doesn't happen like that. And it's been a time when it didn't happen like that for me. And when I didn't respond the way that I should in that moment, it directly impacted one of my employees, right? Because the guy was a high executive, makes the company a lot of money, like money, okay? And it was kind of one of those guys where, like, oh, that's just how he is. And I remember going to, like, his boss and saying, like, nah, this ain't okay. Like, he made too many comments. Oh, that's just, how he is. Da, da, da. I knew that I should have addressed it. Not even a month later, one of his new employees came to me and was like telling me exactly what had been happening and how he had been standing over her and the things he had been saying. And I directly felt guilty because I was like, I could have shut that down. But guess what? When I went to the superiors, and this is $1 billion company, you know what I mean? This is a global company. They pretty much was like, well, that's just how he is. He's a weirdo. He likes looking at women's feet, and you know, you guys have pretty feet, but it's like, so, and it was clear harassment on both ends. It was documented, but nothing ever happened. And then
from your perspective though, like, how'd you respond it? Like, if he said it to you and then you sent a message saying, hey, what you said earlier made me uncomfortable, right? And then you have all of that documentation, you go to your higher ups, as you said, it's $1 million company, have them document that meeting, right? So if you're like, okay, they're telling you,
all this stuff was documented, and still nothing is going to happen. Like I even
what I mean is like
conversation, and nothing happened. So you can do all of that. You
what
can
I think at that
document
point is sue the company. Then that's what because honestly, I know as
well, let me tell you, I reached out to the head of the company that was in the UK at the time. I think they were located in Cyprus. All right. It's a television company. They big. I don't want to say the name. Okay. So I reached out to like my boss's boss, and we sat on a call, and she was like literally in tears because there was nothing that she could do to help me. So do you understand what I'm saying? So the notion that there's somehow going to be someone to come in and save the day and really do something, it's kind of like you can try your best. I had to tell an employee like, wrote him up. Like, you know what I mean? It's like we're not going to fire him. He makes the company too much money. So this whole notion that, and then it starts ripple affecting on you and your job. As to Ms. Taken's point, like as women, we have to maneuver a certain way in corporate America, especially as a Black woman. You're the only woman and then you Black. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to maneuver and do things a certain type of way in certain environments. And it's not going to always have the outcome you would hope that it would have. That's what I've learned. And I feel like as far as sexism, I experienced that in the military because when I was in the Navy, they're like, women can't be divers. I can swim just as deep as they can. You know what I mean? So I just think it's two different things. There's harassment and then there's sexism.
All right, I'm going to play a little more of this clip and I'm going to get to Shan. Did something happen?
No, I thought you stopped it.
Sweeney got the stream. Oh, shit.
Did they stop it for being Jubilee? Yeah, they're kind of rough.
Oh, shit. Damn. My fault.
Just wait it out. I don't think it's going to. I think once they realize that it's a wrap, it'll come back in. Just give it a few minutes. Give it like 5-10 minutes or so. And then you could kind of clip it out if necessary.
Yeah, I think I ended it last time. And so, yeah. So let me.
What happened? I missed what's going on. I know it cut off, but there's a reason that it cut off. Did we play it?
Copyright. Yeah.
So it should come back on after I stop playing it. But I'm going to have to probably just play the audio from it and not the video. So I just got to wait.
Yeah, it should come back up. It's just gonna we'll just give it a minute. But I was kind of scared, yo, because they had a what's the name a little while ago where they were trying to copyright every damn body. But even like I've been preaching stuff, but then they kind of chilled out and withdrew some. But I didn't know they were still like off it like that. But yeah, just wait it out. Once they realize that is not playing anymore, hopefully we could just jump right back into it.
Yeah,
I forgot it was Jubilee, y'all.
I didn't know.
The watermark right in there.
Jubilee, don't be playing no games when it comes to using that content.
Well, what about the? You can use the audio, right? Trail.
You might get away with. You might get away
with more of the audio. Yeah, you can, but you just got to be very careful about how long you use the clips. So. Yeah.
For the research I've done on copyright, you gotta most the ones who are able to get away with it, is the ones who are able to talk over it while it's playing. Like
Mhm.
you literally transforming the content into something else. But if you just
Playing it.
playing the clip with no, like, oh wow, like damn, you know how people be ad-libbing and shit.
All right, it's back on.
No.
I was back up.
Yeah, well, like, so I'm thinking of like dude say he like I wouldn't be in a relationship with a woman that was even getting to that point, but I have had incidents. So like one time at work, this woman tried to hit me up over the weekend. I didn't respond. She called herself trying to curse me out. I ignored her ass and walked away. Like I don't know. I don't view women the same way I view men. So I probably would have like got into it with the man. It was a woman I kind of just brushed it off. Like one time I was walking down the street, this girl tried to holler at me. I had this Lacoste fitting alligator on and shit. And I gave me a compliment. I say thank you. She like, I might have wanted to holler at you. Why you keep walking? I'm like, I'm good. She kicked me and run down the street. What I'm gonna do? Chase her and start beating her up? I just look at women differently than I do men. Let a man kick me. I would have beat his ass. You say what?
Sexist.
Yeah, that's why I said I'll take that.
You don't believe
I
in
definitely
equality?
take that. No.
Well,
No.
here's the problem. The problem isn't necessarily okay. I get it. Yes, can men brush some things off? Absolutely. The problem is that this assumption that women are not violent. First of all, women like to hide. A lot of times, women hide their violence behind men. How many times have you seen a woman put a battery in another man's back to go after somebody else? But the man is the one that's considered the violent one in that situation, even though she the one that sent them. How many times have we seen women weaponize the police against a man? Where they knew by calling 911, they gonna come over and beat you and jack you up and take you out the house. That's violence. That's not, and it's indirect violence where she didn't actually have to get her hands dirty and actually physically assault someone, but you either put a battery in somebody else's back or you put them in a situation where their lives are in danger just off of your words alone. Not to mention, and even then, like Marcus shouldn't have to worry about, just no different than anybody else. Marcus shouldn't have to worry about being kicked in the ass just because he turned some chick down. Now, granted, the thing is that he was able to brush that off because okay, she kicked him and ran. So it's funny, but imagine if she'd have pulled a gun on him, or imagine she would have went and got her brother and told her brother he sexually assaulted her because he was rejected, and then her brother shows up to his doorstep. It's not always the most innocent and cute way that women exact violence on men. We're like, a lot of times we assume that, it's just a woman that just slaps you real quick and we can laugh it off. No, we just seen a man fight a whole case because he wound up shooting some chick brother who lied to her brother and said, hey, yeah, he put his hands on me, and they showed up and her brothers wound up dead.
Damn.
I'm with you on that. That happened all the time. Now that I can't even. Yeah, they ass bogus. Now, is it a way to attach, like, so she should have been in court too, fighting for her life, right? For instigating that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. She should have been charged.
Yeah. In those scenarios,
that's that conspiracy, ain't it?
Yeah, you send your brothers over there and somebody wind up dead off of, technically it would still be conspiracy because the first person you should have called was the law. You can't, like, technically if somebody put their hands on you, Marcus, right, and you don't do anything in the moment, or you know what I mean, but you wait till later and then you go over there and you beat the crap out of them later on in the day, you're going to jail. And technically they would say because you assaulted the person. But what if somebody put their hands on you and then you called a hitman and then they went over there and shot you, and then they went over there and shot the person? They'd say, oh, Marcus, you orchestrated that person being killed. They would say, all right, well, you're getting charged with conspiracy to murder a hitman or something, whatever that dude is filing. If she went and called her brothers and sent them over there, knowing that she was lying about it, that she was orchestrating this purposely to get him harmed, even though she was not actually telling the truth, he didn't do any of those things to her, she purposely lied just to send her brothers over there to harm him, absolutely she should have been charged for conspiracy to commit.
I agree with you, but I don't think that you're going to get a conspiracy charge out of that. I really don't. Because the person can say she had no intent on what they was going over there to do. It'd be hard to prove, and the DA won't pick that up most times. But I agree, they should be charged for that. I'm with you. I 100% agree with
you. Do any of y'all feel like women are inherently more violent, but just less effective at it?
I want to get Shannon to answer that question if she can, because she haven't spoken yet. Go ahead, Shannon.
What's the question again, Vince? Do you think women
Come on.
you think women are more violent?
I was asking, do you think that women are generally or inherently more violent than men while just being less effective at violence?
I think that women are very emotional, and I think that they have less control over, you know, what they do when they're emotional sometimes. I think that but I think that it's downplayed, like you said, because it usually is not like, it doesn't cause harm to a person. So it's kind of like, you know, I mean, I guess you can't spank your kids no more, huh? But it's like you hit somebody and it's like, you know, like it's like people don't take it serious because he's just a stronger being. And most of the time she does not, you know, harm him. But there are times, like you guys just spoke of, that there is harm inflicted. And so that takes it to the extreme of things. And, you know, so we do have those women out there. And I won't say that we don't, because I've seen, you know, too many stories of those types of women. So I will say that a lot of women are very, very emotional, and they do react in what we would consider not the most appropriate way, because if a man were to do the same thing to them, then it would probably cause him to go to jail. So yeah.
Anybody else agree with that? Because I could say this. There's if man, quick show of hands. Have you ever been violated by a woman? I know Marcus, your answer's already yes, but and didn't say or do anything.
Yeah.
Violated, like hit, slap, something, just something that you could have called the police for, but declined.
Yep.
Darwin, that never happened to you? You never got violated? Okay.
I was gonna say, I think women are more like conniving and like wicked, more so, like if the right words, more so, like if you're saying more inherently violent, I don't think they're more inherently violent. I think, again, I guess this is a sexist comment, but I think men typically are more inherently violent per se, and I think women are more inherently conniving, and I think that has a lot to do with the physicality. Like, women are the weaker vessel, right? So it is like you're gonna have to maneuver how you operate to, you know, where men can use physical violence, women have to operate differently. So I think that's why women are more, well, I'll say more conniving in how they retaliate versus men being more physical.
I will say that I think both of them have the same capacity to commit violence. It's just how you categorize it, because like kind of how you categorize it as conniving. It can technically be considered conniving for a woman to call her dad over there to beat you up, but that's still violence. She just didn't she just don't have her fingerprints on the gun. But
Right.
it's still, but you know what I mean?
Scheming.
But what a lot of people tend to believe, and I just wanted to make sure that is that, oh, women don't have a capacity to be violent. They're more or less, oh, they just use their words or something like that. But no, your words can also be violent. It's just, oh, well, I didn't physically hit them, but yeah, I sent somebody over there to do it for me. But I believe that both of them have the same mindset. Like, if a man wants to do harm to somebody, yes, he can physically do it himself. But I think women also have that same mindset where they want to do harm to someone. They just find other ways to do it because they're passively aggressive. So they don't aggressively attack the dude right then and there. Like, they won't put their fit, but they may call somebody over there to handle them, or they may call somebody, or they may call the police, or they may do this to enact the same violence that they would enact if they had the strength to do it.
Which is why I say I don't even think women believe in equality, honestly, because if they believed in real equality, they wouldn't differentiate when men and women fight each other. It'll just be, well, she hit you, you hit her. But most women expect men to have restraint when it comes to dealing with them. And most like kids too. Like it's a large swath of men I don't even really view as a threat, right? Those men, women, and children all kind of fall into that same category as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, no, I don't think they more emotional though. I definitely agree with you on that.
You said most women expect men to be, practice restraint, right? You think most men expect men to practice restraint against women? So it's expected, right? Because of the biological disposition between the two genders. That we are stronger. I think in these situations with men and women, I think women are afraid more. So they look at little small stuff that we wouldn't look at as violence, or we wouldn't look at it as a threat. Well, when a woman is in that situation and she see a man getting angry or balling his fists up, it's a fear that come with that. And she could pretty much label that as emotional abuse or something, or he made me fear for my life. Versus a woman balling her fists up, girl, chill out, sit your ass down somewhere. So I think I don't want to say semantics, but it is sexist when it comes to determining fear and violence in this particular situation. So it kind of blurs everything, kind of muddies everything up, but it all comes down to a specific case at hand, and that's why I'm finding it hard to kind of like engage in the conversation, because it's really no scenario, and maybe I got to throw a scenario out there to try to get a deeper understanding, but it's really who does this more and who does this less, or who whatever. And it's really hard to say that. We got statistics, but if you look at a whole bunch of different sites, you'll see the statistics change. Like they don't really match each other. I remember quoting a statistic a couple weeks ago, and then Shan said, "Oh, that's not true. That's not accurate." You know what I'm saying? And maybe that wasn't accurate. So I think it was on wedlock or not wedlock, but the marriage rate or some shit like that, or divorce rate or something. So
I think the issue is not necessarily. I think that's where we always try to, where a lot of people devolve the conversation to, is the who does it more, and then that's how you even in the video that we reacted to, it kind of starts to devolve into, well, they do it more than we do, and rather than saying this is how we should address violence, or this is how we should address DV, no matter the perpetrator, this is how it will get addressed. And I think that's what a lot of men in those spaces are tending to ask for, is like, hey, look, I'm not here to argue whether we do it more or not. I'm here to argue that if you do it, you should get the same punishment that I get. Or if it does happen, I shouldn't get laughed out the police station when it does happen. Or you know what I mean? Or she shouldn't be treated favorably in this scenario where, you know what I mean, I expect the police to show up. When they do show up, they treat us both fairly. They hear my story, they hear her story, they look at the evidence, they say, okay, well, it looked like you were the aggressor, so you're the one that's going to jail. And we're actually starting to see a lot more of that nowadays, because even if you start to look at a lot of these videos that show up, the police are literally showing up and saying, okay, so they ask both of them the question, and the woman to say, well, all I did was just hit him real quick. And he'd be like, oh, so you actually started this fight. And he'll haul her off to jail. That's what men are asking for. They're just saying, oh, well, make the law where it recognizes that women do it more than we do. All they're saying is that, hey, in the event that they do it, and I call the people on her, or y'all happen to see this in public, that y'all treat her like the same way you would treat a man had he just hauled off and started putting paws on a woman. Treat her the same way. We should all be treated equally across the board when it comes to violence. I don't care how very little it may seem to you. I don't care if it seems small. That no, just like, you know what I mean, a dude, we don't, no matter how little or how small it is, we hyper emphasize things that men do all the time. Even in the workplace, a woman can feel uncomfortable just because a guy said hi to her every day, and there go HR jumping in. Not to say that this happens a whole lot, I'm not saying that, but these are instances where a small issue becomes a very large issue because a woman feels unsafe. You know what I mean? So the same thing should be treated, where it doesn't matter if it came off as small. If you do some shit that violates, then you should get treated the same way and get treated the same and get the same consequences.
Hold on, Marcus, give me 1 second. Let me just play a little bit of this audio. Let me see if we can.
Oh hell, JR.
It should be cool on the audio, right?
Hey, it's Jubilee, bro.
Just don't go long. Pause.
Oh, welcome back, Trey.
Violence.
Yeah, that was the situation that happened on The View, where the ladies on The View was laughing about this dude who the lady chopped off his member and then put it in a blender. And they were all on the panel laughing about it.
Oh. Yeah, she wasn't gonna let him be John Wayne Bobbitt, huh? He wasn't
So
gonna
you
sew that
telling
thing
me that
back
this
on.
story? How did this story start off? Was it the man just walking around with his cock out? Did he
No, I think she got mad that he hit
somebody?
on her or something like that, and she cut his member off while he was asleep.
Hold on, he tried to who?
She had caught him cheating on her or something like that. So when he was asleep, she cut it off and then threw it in a blender.
It's fucked up, but damn, like, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have high expectations for that group of people that laugh. Damn. So to hear a group, the way the world is, any group of women that hear something about a man getting his shit cut off because he offended her or cheated on her, I just think they're gonna laugh at it. And they're gonna look at it as, well, he shouldn't have been cheating. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly what
They're gonna say he shouldn't have been cheating, he got what he deserved. And yeah, it's emasculating. You shouldn't laugh at that, but you gotta understand how evil people are given these scenarios. Now, I don't believe that if this man wasn't going around cheating, and somehow his dick got cut off, and it was like, wow, he was cooking and he fucking dropped the knife on his dick. Oh, excuse my language. That's too many D words at one time. But I'm just saying, I don't think they would laugh at that point. I think it was a cause and reaction type of thing. Like, even though it's wrong, I'm just trying to give women credit, and women can correct me. I don't think y'all would laugh just because of the incident itself, but because he may have gotten what he deserved, y'all don't really give two shits about cheaters.
I don't think anybody deserved that. Now I could see throwing the clothes out the window, maybe set the clothes on fire, like how you see on
fire.
Waiting to Exhale. Like, no, I'm talking about that. Like when women go in a rage and do stuff like that. But
said you could see that?
I've seen that on TV. You know,
okay.
I mean, like, yeah, that I don't know anybody personally that has done that.
So you ain't never see that movie where the dude was cheating on his woman and the girl's like, you should cut his dick off or something like that. I think the first girl said you should hit him with a pan of hot grits, and then
what?
I can't remember what movie that was, but they was thinking about doing something very foul.
Was this a Tyler Perry movie or something?
It may have been. I just don't know which
like
one it is, but they was trying to figure out how to get this
I'm
dude
gonna say
back.
in real life, most that I've heard in terms of like get back is like I've heard somebody break a PlayStation or something like that. I've heard about that, but in terms of doing what you talking about, that's a whole nother level. And I hope she's
not the originator. Yeah. Lorena Bobbitt was the originator. She did it to John Wayne. He was able to recover because she just threw it in the bushes. He was actually out here doing X flicks and everything afterward. But
how do you even get in a position like?
I looked it up. She got life, and just so everybody's aware, she got life.
That's good.
Yeah, she
so that's
it.
good.
Trev, do you think somebody could cut your was he tied up?
She poisoned him first.
Damn.
She put some poison in his food, and I was like, wait a minute, I gotta look it up. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Hold tight, y'all. Let me play a little more of this audio. I kind of sped it up a little bit too. Let's see if we can get this going.
Wait. Did you stop it?
Yeah, he stopped it.
Yeah, he's not taking no chances. Jubilee ain't playing with nobody.
Well, dude is absolutely right.
He was getting ready to say you're calling a feminist something. How dare you call a feminist? What was he gonna say?
Yeah, I can finish playing and we just have to just pause it a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, my question for Sweeney and maybe Darwin as well. If in the ideal world, would you want all double standards removed?
Oh, I don't
What
even
do
know what double. I think it's we got to be specific what double standards there.
I'm saying double standards exist. Can we agree? Double standards don't
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah.
Would you like for them all to be removed?
If and only if and only if the standards that we would replace double standards with will be biblical standards.
There are double standards in the Bible.
No,
Where
it's
at?
not.
Show me.
But let me I'll answer your question this way.
You can't expect me to take you
I would
seriously.
expect double standards to exist when there's an unfair playing field. So for instance, if you're talking about the way things used to be, right? I understood the reason why the law stood the way that they stood. But when you give somebody, I think where what happens is when you give somebody power and influence, well, power, but you keep the double standard that allows them to be less accountable or have no what is the word I'm looking for? When you give somebody power, but you don't give them responsibility along with that power, or they have to be held accountable with that very power, that's where the problem comes into play. So double standards are cool if you're talking about one group having the power and the other group not having the power. So you have to create protections and policies and protections to protect that group. Understood that. But when you start to edge on the area of, okay, we're okay with y'all being equal in all of these areas, but we're going to keep it unequal in these areas. That's where the power divide, that's where the problem comes into play. That's where I disagree with the double standards.
Can we bring up one double standards?
Consequences, that's the word I was looking for.
In the Bible.
So it ain't even got to be in the. You can bring up the Bible, or it ain't even got to be in the Bible. Just something that everybody knows is a double standard, and let's try to just start there.
So all right, so I was gonna use the women are not supposed to be preachers. They're not supposed to be the preachers to the congregation, right? You want me to put a verse up, or are you gonna take the one word out?
No, I know that they ain't supposed to be ministers.
Right,
And if
so
if they do any type of ministry or teach anything in the scriptures, they got to have male oversight.
right. So would you want like that's a double standard? That are you okay with that double standard, or would you want?
I don't believe it. The reason why I don't think it's a double standard because man can't even teach ministry without divine oversight. I think it's a hierarchy, not a double standard. You get what I'm saying? Both have to have some type of oversight.
The hierarchy is what creates the double standard.
Just like for children. Well, I'm not going to even put children in. So you're saying it's a double standard. The president is in a position for to be a double standard. The vice president is. I'm just trying to figure out how you align a double standard with hierarchy.
So all right, so in using the president example, right? The president can pardon anybody he wants, so he can actually do something that we all will go to jail for, except for him, because a double standard exists for him, and it's based off a hierarchical structure.
Right. Anybody in that position can do it. It's not based on a gender though.
But you said so I gave you the gender one in the Bible, then you presented the president, so I used the president as the example. I used what you said.
If you align it to what I aligned it on the Bible, who would be the divine veto of the man on the presidency? Who would be able to veto or challenge the president? I think the Congress, right? Or something like that. Take an act of Congress to.
Technically, they can, but they can't at the same time.
It can't because the executive branch have their own special powers, and the law as it is, based on what you guys are talking about, he can. That was part of the argument about how he can excuse himself from being, like going to jail for a crime during his presidency.
But did he just say, hey, I'm excused from this? Or did he have to process some type of bill or approve it, something that had to get stamped and filed? Or did he just verbally say, you know what, I'm the president, I'm exempt from going to jail?
Challenging the current, what he was doing was challenging the current laws that's in place. So it wasn't something that he did. It was already in place and he's just enacting it.
Well, I get it though. So he just stated, oh, somebody said, oh, we're going to convict this dude. And once he got into presidency, he wiped out his convictions. Is that what you're saying?
Say that again.
I'm just trying to figure out what you mean by.
So laws exist, right? Right. The law exists. Somebody exists outside of that law because they don't have to be held to the same standard as the law because of the position they're in. So they have a standard for that person and it's a standard for everybody else, or the person that's not that person. So I'm not gonna say everybody else. So a regular citizen and the president, there's a double standard in what one can do and one can't do. Would you like that removed as well? Like where the president can be prosecuted the same as any regular citizen?
I think Trump was actually prosecuted for his crimes. He was impeached.
That was when he was no longer president, when all of that stuff was
his impeachment,
the charges in New York and all of that kind of stuff. He wasn't president at the time.
Okay,
so,
so President Trump was never he wasn't the first president to ever get impeached. I know Nixon was one of them. So you saying, and I don't follow this shit like y'all do, but you saying President Trump was never impeached while he was in office? It was out after he got out.
Bill Clinton was. They were trying.
Bill Clinton was too, but it's not. They impeached him. Now, it's not an impeachment unless you're like in office though. So it definitely happened with Trump as well.
He was impeached twice.
Twice.
So all I'm saying is, somebody has accountability over you. So like a double standard, what I think a double standard would be, let's just say me and my wife having an argument and she wanted the kids to wear a certain thing to the park. And I'm like, no, they gonna wear this. And then she said, but why? Just because I said so. Well, why can't they wear, why can't they wear what I want them to wear? Because I said so. I think that's a double standard, right? There's nobody over me to challenge me on it. But I think everybody we just was talking about had some type of oversight correcting it.
So to me,
or challenging or pushing back on it.
So to me, with regards to the law, a double standard would be if one person could do something and would get in trouble, and another person would, formally do the same thing and not get in trouble. And that's formally, right? So in our country, if a woman does the same exact thing, she would technically in a formal sense get in trouble. But now whether people follow through on that is different. I think the conversation we're really having is between gendered laws and gender neutral laws, right? So like a gendered law on parental leave would be that mothers are prioritized with regard to how much time they get off work because they were the person that gave birth, or for domestic violence, recognizing that most victims of domestic violence statistically are women. So you would designate more money in a legal sense to have shelters for women instead of men, as they were talking about earlier. What I wanted to mention is just that the law can't put us all on an equal playing field because it's a tool. So like the law alone and by itself cannot liberate us, right? Essentially, whether you want gendered laws or gender neutral laws, personally, I'm probably on the gender neutral law approach, but either way, that's not gonna fix this, white supremacist and capitalist patriarchy that we all live in. I feel like for this to matter, you have to start from a social approach and have, you know, a larger conversation societally and culturally toward dismantling these systems of oppression in the first place. So a lot of times, you know, when we get into this, like, whataboutism, right? So it's the same as when you say Black Lives Matter and somebody says all lives matter. You say violence against women is a problem. Oh, violence against men is a problem too. Oh, you know, what about racism? And then people are like, okay, well, I've been discriminated against because other people were prioritized for college, right? So like, okay, just because one thing might be true doesn't mean that the other thing is not a big problem, you know? And I feel like what's happening is that this is getting set up as if my problem matters, then your problem doesn't, or whose problem is bigger, or who has more power between the problems, right? When in reality, it should be both sides against a system that oppresses a lot of people, right? Like a lot of people on both sides. Like it shouldn't necessarily be like women versus men whose issues matter more, who's more oppressed. That doesn't help anybody. And getting us into that conversation, I think, is intentional. Because when you get into that conversation, then you tear people apart instead of letting them, you know, rally together and create positive change in the same direction. When in reality, I don't think, when you're looking at it from an ideological standpoint, I don't think that there is this huge men against women thing. Because I'm listening and I'm like, yeah, violence against women is a problem. And then when you describe violence that's been committed against you, I'm sitting here thinking, yes, that's also a problem, right? So I don't think that it needs to be a conversation where it's us versus them. It's us versus this larger structure that is causing problems for everybody.
Let's just take men and women off the table. Do you think focusing on the people who are the most disenfranchised is beneficial? Because I think you said something along those lines that we shouldn't focus on that.
No, so I think that acknowledging the people who are most impacted by a problem in order for short-term protection is, you know, a smart thing to do in the short term. But I think it also sometimes distracts us from a longer term solution. And honestly, the longer term solution has to be dismantling this system that was put in place on purpose. So if you think about, you know, the fact that having such strict, as you were saying earlier, hierarchies and such strict divides between people, right? That's such a Eurocentric idea. And I know I keep coming back to this and I'm probably annoying people, but really that comes from the imposition of a cultural norm that wasn't necessarily there for the most disenfranchised people in our society now. And so if there has been a group in power that has intentionally taken away someone else's power, right? Those people can rally together and bring things to more of an equitable playing field, right? Or the people who are still in power because they took it can say, hey, that guy stole your cookie, right? Like we've probably all heard that, you know, idea. If you can set up this dynamic where these people are fighting amongst themselves, then none of them are going to look at me. And I think that's intentional. And I think that the more we get into these conversations, the more that we build that up.
Go ahead, Amira. What's all the expressions? What's going on?
I'm sorry, but every time she talks, I'm so sorry, Aria. I'm sorry, Aria. It's just sometimes because you make a great point, but then the other stuff is just like this university babble. And I'm sure you're not intending it to be that way, but it just sounds like the crap that they try to teach me in the university. Well, this is all because of colonialism, and well, it's all because of the power structure. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's just people are people. And we're always going to have a hierarchy. No matter who it is, there's always going to be one. And it's not always colonialism. It's just, I don't know, every time you talk, you say the same words again and again. I'm sorry, but it's just what I hear. That's why I was like getting so frustrated, because every time it's always colonialism. I mean, maybe I'm the same way. Maybe I'm always talking about how women are bad, but I'm right. Sorry.
Well, I'm coughing. Yeah. Anyways, you got anything? Got anything you want to say on that, Rare?
I don't know.
Honestly, I'm a behavior scientist, right? And that is my job. And yes, just like everything circles back to racism, everything circles back to colonialism. That's true. And I think that when we get into these fights between us, we can't see those bigger picture problems. And to be honest, every time you talk, I hear pick me energy too. So that's cool.
I've been picked, so I can't be asking to be picked. I'm already picked.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm gonna play it.
This is what I was talking about.
I'm gonna need both of y'all to behave.
Violent. Girls aren't violent. This is what we do. That right there. Prime example.
That's what y'all do to each other. Y'all don't do that with us. That's what y'all do to each other. Y'all do not do that with us. Y'all be on one.
Hey, sweetie, what you slipping on, bro?
Man, Kool-Aid, man.
Pause,
Right.
bro. Pause.
I'm about to ready to play the rest of that clip.
There's a pause moment for what you sipping on?
You ain't never heard that saying? Man, you must be sipping on Kool-Aid, soft ass.
Hold on.
That's a thing? Oh, man, y'all country as hell.
$2 says shout out to Dari McPherson, Easy. $2 says Sweeney, fault. Nasu, $4.99. Sweeney's damn fault. Y'all got flagged talking about. I was going to ask you to let that play out a little longer. Head ass.
That dude gotta be from Chicago.
I'll play the rest of this clip.
And that's just what I be talking about. The statistics, and to figure out, trying to find a solution, looking at the numbers. And it always gonna fall on, okay, who reported the statistic or who did the research. It's just, that's why I kind of like stayed away from that and just focus on case by case situation, working with individuals. Because if you keep trying to look at this thing from a number standpoint, you're going to argue with people who have a subjective way of looking at it. Like, I'm just been checked out from it lately. I've been just trying to focus on, okay, what the fuck is your problem? Did you go to court? Can you afford your attorney fees to go and fight for your kid? Then you find out the motherfucker ain't got a job. He can't afford it. So now he's part of the numbers of men who unfair, they didn't get their kid. Like, it's so many nuances in between it. Like, how many of these men are actually trying to fight for the kids versus how many actually fought going into the courtroom and lost? And why did they lose? You get what I'm saying? Like, I think those parts of the case are very important to figure out, to see how it played out, because I don't think everybody's case, and Sweeney probably could back me on this, I don't think everybody's case was the same. Like, everybody had different fucking obstacles in the courtroom that they had to go around trying to get custody of kids. I don't think it was the same. I think everybody's had a unique, intimate situation. And his could have been different. He was probably missing something, or some shit ain't have a signal. Like, all of these other things that play into it. But we're just looking at the numbers as a basis and we're like, oh, this is the reason, because it's unfair. Like, nigga, what the fuck?
Well, so Darwin, I agree that there's nuances to it, right? Like, it's not cut and dry, but I believe that the statistics play a vital part in problem solving, right? So if let's just say marital statistics, we know, and that's public information, right? So we know that that's pretty damn accurate, that there's about half of us that fail, right? So then we know how bad of a problem that is, right? Or we know what the rates are for teenage pregnancy, right? Some of these numbers are it's easy for us to substantiate the numbers, and then you know how horrible your problem is based on what the numbers represent. So I think that we can use statistics, if we're used properly, I do believe that there are other nuances that need to be addressed, like you stressed, but we can't ignore the numbers. We have to have some type of baseline to know some type of barometer. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this, Trav. When somebody say they're afraid of marriage, or they talk about the marriage oh, it's unfair and it's unfair deal, what's the first thing they bring up? Because of the divorce.
Yeah.
They skip all of the whole shit, the disagreement, the arguments in the kitchen, throwing glass at the wall, and got all the way down to the end.
Right.
And that's
I get it. But dig this. Check this out. What other financial decision would you make like that? If you knew that, let's say your 401k had a 50% chance of failure, right? You would be scared as hell to do that. Like, it could just disappear. You could invest your life savings into your 401k or your pension, but there's a 50% chance that shit's going to fail. Most people would look for other options, but because that's not generally what happens, right? There's almost no cases if you invest in the S&P 500 that nobody ever loses, right? You leave it in there for 20 years, everybody wins. But once you start to change that and say, well, there's a half chance you're going to fail, or if you knew you was going to jump in a plane and there's a half chance that bitch going to crash, you probably would never fly.
But that's, you making my point though. We're the mindset is, walk with me. Our mindset is shaped right now. When we look at the numbers, it's shaping our mindset to look at us at the altar. And after we say I do, we skip past the whole duration, the time in between, and just go straight to divorce court. Like, what about all the shit that happened in between to cause the divorce in the first place? Like, nobody want to focus on that. And if we look at how many, the number one cause, what is it, infidelity or some shit like that?
Yeah. Okay. No, well, that's one of them. I mean, see, that's another one. That those type of
and we can't even,
those type of numbers.
That's my point. We can't even use
that's
that
tough.
because that's
tough.
Fluctuate from 1 to 3 or 2 or 5 or some shit.
Yeah,
we can't even use that.
Those are weird. So it's almost. So check this out, right? That's like, all right. So let's say you want to go ahead and get your shit off real quick. You see it fine, the joint and everything, right? And that whole experience is going to be great, but the end result is the consequences, right? Something's going to happen out of it. And you could say, you know what? This nut is going to be great, man. She's going to slob it up. She's going to do all kind of extra shit. But we have to go straight to the consequences. And that's what we tell people. You go straight to the consequences, the potential consequences of what this nut is going to get you. So it's the same thing. You have to think about the potential consequences. It's a scary ass thing to put your life in a balance and knowing that it could be destroyed. Your children could be ripped from you and you could lose it all. Right? That's a scary concept. So I think that we have to do our due diligence into making sure this doesn't happen. Right? I took the risk on my own myself. So I'm not trying to tell everybody to be pessimistic, but you have to be extremely cautious because it's a scary thing. It's one of the most important decisions, if not the most important decision you're gonna make in your life, and the most consequential.
But let me ask you this.
I want to jump into.
I'm gonna grant you your argument. Let's just say that.
Hold on, Doc. We got to make sure we let some other folks in. So I know y'all going back.
Make this one statement. I'm not even long-winded. Trust me. Let's say that right now, whenever you get a divorce, the woman is going to be the custodial parent. And right now, men are in an uproar saying that it shouldn't be that way. How many, on a scale from 1 to 10, how many men do you think would want default custodial rights for the child in the event of divorce on a scale from 1 to 10? We don't have to scale it up to all men. I'm just looking at this one sample size to match.
Maybe about 7.
I wouldn't even say that.
It's debatable, right? I won't stand on it like it's. But if I had to give you a guesstimate, I would say about 7.
So you said 70%. 70% of the time, a woman has a child.
Okay.
When that they were married to,
that they were married to. Married.
Oops. Whatever.
No, oops is different. I would say a lot of them, hell no. That's a low percentage. But if you're saying a marriage, we were talking about marriage just now, so I was just using that as the example. And if I were going to say people who married a woman to raise a family, I would say 7 out of 10. I strongly believe that that's about in the ballpark.
Do they will want majority custody?
I work in the courts, as you guys know. I work and we do family law. We do mostly family law and of course personal injury. But regarding family law, regarding Darwin's point, he said that there's other factors and we don't know all the rest of the factors. Darwin, I can give you statistics from working in the field daily for years. I see this every day. We have men spending even more money on the court system than the women do and still losing. And a lot of times we're lawyers for men. Like our whole firm is about men. We'll tell the men outright, listen, if the woman says that she wants to get a restraining order against you, she's going to get it 99% of the time. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is make her feel fear, and there you go. You're now a domestic violence person. It's on your record, and so on and so forth. When it comes to custody, I mean, this is not even a question. I told you before, they don't even look at the paperwork. Everything goes to the woman. So Darwin, it's not so much about all these factors or anything. Men start off at a disadvantage.
Well, I'm not arguing against what happens at the end. I'm just talking about we never consider what happens in between the time when you get married and divorced that has an influence on how this man and women are fucking looking at each other's with evil intent. Like, I'm going to take everything away from you. We never consider all of the stuff that's driving up to that. And secondly, I listened to the lead attorney and I heard him say that out of all of the divorces, most of the men don't even want not full custody, but custodial rights. They just want time. And that's what my argument is. That's what I was asking. Most of them have to work. They can't really afford to, have to house the kid. They would rather the woman house the kid.
Darwin, think about that. They're not even asking for full custody. They're not even asking for
the
donkey and the
argument is
pony.
hey, look, I just want to get my child when I want to spend time with them. That's the issue.
They're not even getting that.
I wasn't arguing that. I was just saying in most cases, because the issue is, well, men should be able to, it's his seed that came from his penis. He should by default have custodial rights. I'm like, most of the guys don't even want that.
Well, the problem
even if you
is,
consider, and I know Trav said just focus on marriage. Even if you consider the guys that's just fucking and dumping, they don't even want her to keep the damn kid.
All right, y'all, let's get Shannon and then Sweeney in there. Let's get Shannon and Sweeney in there.
So the one thing about family court is those things are documented, right? And it is documented that most, for whatever reason, most men, I'm just saying most, I'm not saying that, don't ask for custody, right? They allowed the female, and I guess that could depend on age. I don't know. But they do, when I say custody, meaning they're the sole custodial or they're the main, they do want to see their kids. They want custodial rights, but they're not begging to be the person who is, in charge, who has the kid majority of the time. I don't know many men who, even when they're at home and their husbands, they will help, but it's not their main ministry. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and obviously they do it, but it's just not like it is for women. It's not just a natural, it's just, it looks a little different. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's documented because the men who do ask, there's a great majority of them who do get what they ask for, right? You just have to ask. And a lot of times they don't even go to court. They have the mediation. They figure it out before it even gets to that other place. And this is per state, because I do also know that when you're divorced, your custodial rights are set in stone a little different from a person who's just, you got to go to court, petition the court and all that kind of stuff. It kind of goes into your divorce, the paperwork, like the agreement, right? So you'll get them. It's like usually every state has a setup. Sometimes it's every other weekend with one day every week, so it just depends on your state. I don't know what state Amir, what state are you in? I can look it up.
California.
So obviously it's a state right. So California is not going to look like Alabama. It's not going to look like Georgia. It's not going to look like other states. But for the most part, when you are divorced, it kind of comes along with, the setup of your divorce. But most men are not asking, you know, I want full custody, unless the kid, of course, is of age. Like I do hear men say, once my son is a certain age, I want to have custody of my son. So that is very normal. But we're talking about little kids.
Now that I hear that one. You're right. When they get to a certain age, I
I
do
don't
hear
hear
that one
no
a lot.
man going, these little 2-year-olds and these 1-year-olds, let me grab them, especially if they don't have a woman at home. Let me do this myself.
So that's
Winnie.
So the problem is that we keep saying, oh, we don't see too many men asking for full custody. No, because men aren't looking to take the child away from the mother. They just want equal right and equal time to their kids. That's what they tend to ask for. They're not asking us.
That's called joint custody. So
Right.
even
Most men want joint custody. Most men ask for joint custody. If you ask a man, if in any court situation, they're not going to say, well, hey, your option is either joint custody or she gets all the custody and you just get nights and weekends. And the guy says, oh, well, I'll just go with nights and weekends. That's just the default for what the situation put in. Most men want joint custody. And then when you start to think about what men are asking for as equal rights, you have to start breaking it down. What exactly are they asking for? They want to be able to have the ability to say where their kid go and doesn't go. They want the ability to be able to claim their children on their taxes. They want the ability to see their kids for more than just a weekend a month. That's the stuff that men are asking for. That they're not looking to snatch the child away from the mother. That's not their primary.
So
let me ask you this: in the event of divorce, what's the likelihood of the man getting joint custody? Do he got to like fight for that?
If she said, if the problem is
she got to like prove that he's not worthy of it.
No, the thing is that men, as long as there's no fight, there's not really a problem. If it ends amicably and they both say this is what we're gonna do, there's no problem. The only reason why courts are involved is because somebody in that situation is saying no. That's where the problem comes into play at. Is that when somebody in the situation goes, I don't want you to have that, now we have to go to court.
Okay, now that makes sense. And we can just say, since women get it the most by default, most women are most likely to say he don't deserve joint custody because X, Y, and Z, and the judge or whoever
now you see
now you got to bring X, Y, and Z to the court so we can look at it and actually make a determination.
Yeah, like no dude goes into court and be like, man, I'm about to unless he really don't like his kids, be like, I'm gonna voluntarily just give her everything and say screw that kid. If it ends amicably, it normally ends with them both having joint custody and they go about their way. They normally pretty good.
So if women are getting the majority, it's either one, that we all believe it's unfair, or two, the women have some hell of a fucking strong arguments.
No, it's not. It doesn't have to be a strong argument. She can just.
Well, it has to be. It has to be what they usually take in consideration in court is who usually does it. Even when you were in a marriage, who did most of the work in the marriage? For example, if you're the person who's picking the kid up, who keeps the record, they want to see a resume of what it is that you do. The kid is in the house with you guys. Who does the most? Who has a better chance of making sure that this kid, not to say it's correct, who's already doing it, basically. That's my understanding of what takes place in court when they decide on who gets the kid and who doesn't.
So if she's already doing it, the courts are going to be like, well, we don't want to uproot the system that's already in store for the kid.
But here's the problem with that, though, is, and this is where it falls apart, is that they're using their situation within the marriage to determine the outcomes outside the marriage. Of course, she's able to stay at home when he was the one that was working, so therefore she's able to care for the child more. What courts don't tend to consider is that, hey, this is a new situation that we're in. Now she has to work, so she's not going to be there as much as she would have had, had we been together.
That argument doesn't work because most women are working women. So I can understand what you're saying if they're at-home moms, but most women are working women. So they're working and taking care of the child. So that's where a lot of times the argument comes in for women when we say roles, right? That the expectation is that the woman still take primary role in child rearing, right? So when you have a setup like that,
even in those.
and they're coming home taking care of the kid and doing all of the extras that go along with parenting, and then you end up in a divorce, that's where it's imbalanced.
No, I
You know
get that, but the problem with that is that we know that in majority of marriages where both people are working, the household duties also tend to be shared. It's not always a scenario where, oh, even though she works in this, and this is backed by the data. When you ask couples who are married within the marriage, hey, whoever it's dependent on how many hours you put in and outside the work, but depending on the hours outside the work, that's how many hours you put in inside the home. So in situations where women tend to work, in those situations, they're both putting in the same amount of work for the child. The dad picks up the kid, the dad helps out at home. The problem is that what happens is we're seeing divorces where things are no longer amicable. So now you're starting to see people weaponize. Well, they find reasons, so to speak, for a mirror, where in order for her to win the argument and get it to go by faster, she had put a restraining order on the father. Or they would start to make arguments like, oh, well, he's not around that much, or he works too much, or they would weaponize his job against him, even though he was taking care of the child right alongside her. People lie in court all the time to get their way. We see it all the time. So in these situations where we're talking about, oh, well, even in a situation where she works, oh, well, that means that she's supposed to still have custody. No, people tend to lie. If we're talking about situations where a father is losing custody or losing a custody battle. Those aren't always situations where the judge is looking at a fair situation and seeing both of them in the true light of what actually went on in their household.
He's looking at what y'all present. And if a woman is the most malicious and she present some shit that make you look bad, it's a game. GG, I got the custody.
And I think that's what fathers are fighting against, is saying that, look, I should have the right to have my child. Now, if I decide to not,
hold on, Sweeney, do you have the same opportunity to match her level of maliciousness?
Not all the time, no. Oftentimes it's actually recommended against the father to even be nasty towards the mother because it might work against him.
Recommended by who?
Lawyers, attorneys, the judge, the system. They will tell you, like, you trying to be nasty or ruthless.
That's a recommendation, but that still don't mean that you can't match or exceed her level of maliciousness in the event of divorce.
Even if you do,
fuck her world up.
No, even if you do, you have to approach it in a certain type of way. Otherwise, your actions could actually be seen as abuse and work against you.
But that would be the same for a woman, right?
No, her actions aren't seen as abusive if she goes.
Can you give me an example of something malicious a man can do that would be seen as abusive, that if the woman do the same thing, it wouldn't?
Say, for instance,
phone calls, harassment, coming up at your place of work, things like that. It happens all the time. A woman does it and it's okay. Oh, she needed to get in contact with you. A man does it, he goes to jail. You're stalking her.
So here in Georgia, if whoever has the phone record and all of these things are documented, it's not, I don't know what California must be on their own thing, but here, if you have documentation and you can prove that the other person is crazy, or usually they side with the person who is a little less, you can got something going on. But even when we talk about these conversations, how often do we hear people say, well, dating is different for men than it is for women when you have a kid, because most of the time the woman is the one who's got the responsibility. But you guys praise that. You always talking about that in, on these podcasts. Oh, the woman gets the custody. We know the kid ain't with us. So it becomes a little confusing, because it's almost like when it's beneficial for you not to have the kids, you praise it. You like, oh no, that's on her. She's the one who's going to lose value and because she has the kid. But then all of a sudden now we're saying no, in court we want it. It's just a little confusing, because
how is that confusing?
Let me just say this.
How is that confusing?
I am an advocate for joint custody. Well, nobody dropping kids off like me. Okay, so because I feel like you don't ask a man, you tell him, here go your kids. So about that.
I got a question. I got a question. How is that confusing? Why are you juxtaposing men fighting for rights to have equal rights to their kids to men dating women with children? I don't see how those two correlate.
let me say this, Sweeney. I will acknowledge that from the research I've seen and just from being around people, there's a difference between a married man who got a divorce and who had kids than a man who just had children, right? So when we're talking just about the man who's had a divorce, what I've read was you could ask. Now, I guess it depends on what state, whether they favor giving the kid to the man or the woman, right? And I do think that those men are the ones who get screwed the most out of the deal. And the men who just having kids, they're the ones, because it's so many of them, they're the ones who are giving the whole thing a bad name when these guys over here, you know, a great majority of them are trying to do things right. They're trying to see their children. They have a bond with their kids. They've been living with their kids all this time. It's just two different scenarios. Does that make sense? But I would say this, you'll never know. Let me just say this. You'll never know if you don't ask. You can't sit here and say, predict what a judge is going to say for you. If you didn't ask, you'll never know. Now, if you get up here and you say, I want joint custody, and she denies you, okay, then we can talk about it. But if you don't ask,
men are asking. That's the ones who are complaining are the ones. No, we're talking about, you got to hear it from men's advocate standpoint, not just y'all are looking at the men who don't go to court at all and saying, well, y'all aren't asking. Talk to the men who actually, hold on, wait. Okay. Talk to the men who actually do go to court. They're telling you they're being given a raw deal. They're telling you that, man, all she has is the right to say no. And y'all are arguing against that. Why are you arguing against that, man? He's telling you that he's getting a raw deal.
You know, I don't know if y'all know OGJ Speed. Shout out to him. He come on the panel from time to time, and he so excuse my ignorance. I'm just paraphrasing what I heard him say because I've never been through this scenario. And to anybody who has, my heart go out to you. I understand it's a really messed up situation. All right. He said that a lot of times the reason that because he said he helped other fathers get their children and he got his kids because it wasn't so much that they were awarding based off of gender. It was who was in custody of the children during the time of court. So like the police came to the house and the woman left and the children stayed with the man at the house, then he would retain custody through the whole process and she would have to petition for it. So I don't know if that's technically how anybody else experience is.
Oh no, that's exactly how it is. But what tends to happen is that if, say for instance, man and woman don't get along, right? They've been together for 5 or 6 years, but they don't get along. The woman says, I'm about to leave and I'm taking the kids with me. Oftentimes, he can't fight her on that. If she decides to take the kids and they get into an altercation or something like that, most of the time he can't just like strong arm the kids to stand at the house. If she wants to walk out with the kids, he can't like strong arm them and force them to be there. So what happens is that she or if she calls the law and the law comes in and be like, hey, look, y'all fighting, who's the aggressor? Okay, you going to jail, or hey, you got to let her and the kids go if they want to go or whatever. Or sometimes and then what's up?
Can I please? I don't mean to. I just, because of what your example is, I want to give you just one more example and then I'll let you go. But the example that you use about her saying, I'm taking the kids and I'm leaving. You know what else happens? She'll take the kids and she'll leave, and then she'll start the divorce process. And then during the divorce process, the judge will order that her and the kids move back into the house and the man gets out.
Yep. And then they kick the.
So you guys don't have abandonment in California? Because whoever leaves the house is usually home abandonment.
Not if she take the kids with her.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
In the divorce process, a lot of times, and Georgia may be a different state, but in a lot of states, they will move the mother and the kids back into the family home because that's what's considered the family home. So they would say, "Oh, but somebody has to go," and normally they would say they tell the father he has.
I understand that, but the part where she said at the point in time where she said, "Hey, look, I'm about to take the kids and leave," in the divorce process, and none of that shit haven't even happened yet. Oh, she can go to jail for that. Over here, you can get that ass locked up.
All right, y'all. Let me run this clip right quick, man. Can
I just say one thing real quick, JR?
It's gonna be 30 seconds.
Less than 30 seconds. It's almost like men need to know how to vet women by understanding what different types of women are and behave like, so that they don't wind up in these situations. I guess they would need experience for that, though.
Okay. right, let me go ahead and
Not
play this
sex.
out here.
So here's my thing on that. Should women be mothers? Or is it women's purpose to be mothers? Yes. What do I say to the women who are infertile? Either don't have children because biologically it's not meant for you to be a mother, or you get a surrogate. Is that the right word for it? I don't want to fuck shit up because I've been drinking wine tonight. That's not the right word? Damn. It's yes and see, that's the difference
You
between men
said
and women.
use a
Surrogate is
surrogate or
one who
be a
carries a
surrogate.
baby for another
Huh?
person. A surrogate is a person who carries a baby. I'm sorry, a woman who carries a baby for another couple. That's a surrogate. You mean like adopt?
I think he was saying
I'm saying
use a
I'm gonna
surrogate.
take my nut.
Oh,
and
use a surrogate.
we gonna borrow a woman's body to bring my baby in. Is that called surrogate? What the fuck, then, Amra?
You said be a surrogate. That's why she was confused.
You said be a surrogate. How could she be a surrogate if she's infertile?
I meant get a surrogate. God damn.
Man, this shit is hilarious, boy. As they're so
I think all women was made to be. I think they was made to be mothers or be in a nurturing role, and I think that social conditioning kind of contaminates that, and you'll get offshoots of that. But at the base nature of women, I believe that they are supposed to be mothers. And I don't know if it's random, but it kind of ties into this. I don't know if y'all ever heard this show, Could Have Been Records, or Could Have Been. It's like Drewski.
Yeah.
He dating all these women right now. So on the show,
I love
all
that
of the
show.
women.
Me and my husband, we watch it
That shit
together.
is funny.
I love it.
All of the women on that show are dykes, right? Or studs. If I'm using the wrong language for women that act like men, that dress like men, date only women and are men. The irony of that show is they like him, or they want to be around him, or they infatuated with his money enough that they all trying to become feminine women to get him back, and they resetting back to default settings. That's crazy to me. That's why I say it's social program.
Marcus,
it's the right scenario, and you'll reset somebody back to their default programming, and that's always been my stance. So,
but
So you
Marcus,
saying that
they do
you saying
look
the women,
awkward. You could tell it's not natural though.
so you saying the women that Drewski was interacting with was reset to their default setting?
yeah,
So let me
they
ask-
all resetting.
So
They
let me
all-
ask you this: if Drewski went bankrupt tomorrow, what would they reset to then?
Hold on, Mary. You got to speak on it real quick, please.
I'm not sure, but I think once they get some I think because a lot of them is virgin. I think once they get some dick in their life, they might stay that way. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, hold on, y'all. Let me get Amir in there real quick. Go ahead, Amir. What are your
How
thoughts
can I
about
go after he said that, JR? Why would you put me after that sentence?
Okay, let us bow our heads and then we'll raise it back up. You can go ahead.
Thank you. Everybody bow your heads in prayer.
And then let's lift our heads back up, and we just did a reset. Go ahead, Amir.
Thank you guys for having me. I was just going to say goodbye and just peace out, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm just sleepy and I got to go. But thank you. Thank you, JR.
No, I meant go ahead and speak on the thing before you head out. Like about women.
About not getting D in their lives?
No.
I don't know what to say about that.
No, like about
women
mothers.
Mothers? That women should be mothers, right? Well, yeah, I mean, I believe that we should encourage all girls, all women to be mothers, because you never know if she is infertile or not. So I think we should encourage it for every woman. I don't think that we should give this option to women to say, no, it's okay. You could also just live your life without them and just go off into the sunset and travel the world. And, I don't think that we should do that. If a woman chooses to do that when she gets older, that's her decision. But I don't think that we should encourage it. I think we should encourage motherhood, encourage family. Now, there's plenty of doctors who say that a woman is infertile in her 20s and she pops up pregnant in her late 20s or 30s. And they're like, oh, it's a miracle. You can't really believe that the doctor is right all the time with the infertility. But if she gets to a certain age and she realizes that she's not having any children, do I say that she's worthless or useless if she doesn't? A little bit, not as much, but just a little bit. But she can try to do what Sweeney said and Darwin said and be assert. What? Why are you holding your head like that? I was saying the right thing. I said that I actually said it right, like better than you said it. So she could adopt, and there's plenty of children who need adoption out there. So I think that's a great option. And yeah, so.
Somebody give her the clap sound, something. You know what I mean? On the way out the door.
Hold on, what
Shout out
kind
to
of
Amir.
Don't get them O'Shea Jackson clapping cheeks.
Oh hell, man. But to speak on the topic, I do believe I'm about to take a page out of Marcus's book. I think there should be a healthy encouragement of women and men becoming parents. I think the problem that we have in society is that there's an unhealthy encouraging of people not to be parents. Like, I don't think that this is the solution to the problem of people who may not be ready. Because obviously there are people out there, if you tell them, hey, look, you know, there are some people that face disability. There's some people that face mental health issues. There's some people that face health issues in general, that you can sit there and we can treat that on a case-by-case basis where we can talk to them and have a conversation with them. But I think everybody should be encouraged to be healthy, have a healthy encouragement to be parents. And I think that would inherently lead to people being happier and healthier parents. But what we're seeing today is this unhealthy encouragement of people not to be parents. Where, you know what I mean, where we're treated, where a lot of people are being raised to be selfish. Oh man, who the fuck wants to raise kids? I don't got no time for them. It's like, I'm not saying that you have to do this, but damn, why you got such a negative outlook and opinion about children? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a person that you get to mold and raise up to be the best person, you know what I mean? The best part of humanity. You have a chance to cultivate that. And I get it. Shit's scary. None of us was prepared to be parents. Nobody's ever prepared. I don't care how many books you read. I don't care. Once you say go left and your kid turn right, and you got to encounter that, it's you know what I mean? Then you battle the outside world and all of that. None of us is ever fully prepared. Like, yeah, you may plan it. You may say, oh, well, you know what I mean? You may plan for children, but you're never fully prepared to deal with children. Is there
a way you say you're not fully prepared to deal with children? How do you know that if nobody's ever, like, how can you measure that? Like, what does it look like to be fully prepared? Or is it impossible?
I would say that it doesn't exist. Like, people, we're like, you can.
I wasn't prepared for the first time my son jumped in my face.
Is the encouragement, the encouragement of women having children and things like that. I agree in terms, but I think that the context in which we say that, it also needs to be within marriage. So I think that's the other part to it, is that a lot of times, especially now in this society, when you're saying more and more people are choosing not to have children, well, that's coinciding with the fact that most people are saying don't get married, right? Yeah. I mean, this is whole push of men saying, oh, it's not worth getting married, but we are still talking about making, I don't want to say making for a lack of a better word, but encouraging women to have children. And that's the situation that we're in right now. We have a lot of women that have children that are in single homes, raising kids by themselves, because we're not pushing the encouragement of marriage at the same level that we're encouraging women to have children. So I think both of those things need to go hand in hand. If we're talking about being selfish, I think it would make more sense to not have a kid if you know you're selfish. It would make more sense not to get married if you know you're selfish, because both of those roles require service.
I was gonna say, I would argue that the group that is encouraging women to have children are also the same group that's encouraging them to get married first. I think both of those groups go hand in hand. And we can look somebody like, I mean, the one that we all know most about is Kevin Samuels. He always encouraged the women to pick somebody, marry them, and get down the road. And like, I think the people who are actively protesting against marriage are also actively protesting against children as well, because they tend to have an issue with both sides of the system, not only the system with marriage, but also the system with child support and all that other shit. And on top of that, they dislike single mothers. So I don't think those two groups, I think the men who tend to encourage women, who are actively encouraging women to have children, they're also encouraging them to partner with a man and get on down the road also.
But Sweeney, that's where I disagree. They're not encouraging marriage.
Can you show me? Can you point to someone who doesn't?
I think what he's saying, Mr.
They're encouraging being in a relationship, but not marriage. And I think those are two different things. Cohabitation and marriage, the outcomes based on research shows that yes, cohabitation is better than single, parenting, but marriage is the best outcome, right? So we can't say let's, be together and have kids without the marriage.
Can you point to an example with somebody that's actively promoting women to have children outside of marriage?
Ooh.
I would say this whole argument about I will never get married, I would just be with a woman. If I want to be with her, we could cohabitate. To me, that's an indirect encouragement, because what typically happens,
that's fair.
You're not cohabitating and not having sex. You know what I'm saying? You're not cohabitating and not having children. So those are in cohabitating situations, they're having children.
So basically, you're saying anybody who's having sex that don't plan on having kids is pretty much indirectly promoting that they don't want. What was the fuck was your question, bro? Damn, I fucking lost it.
That's not what she said. I see how you tried to play that. That was a good try.
I think he just got it confused.
I'm not trying to play it no way, but look.
No, that was a good one.
She said she used the word indirectly in one way, and I was using it in another way.
Let me just tell you, I see what she's talking about. There are sectors in this space or in the space adjacent where the men say, you don't have to be with the woman. You can pay her to have your kid, and y'all don't have to create a family. Or you could be with her, have a spiritual marriage, don't get married, and then you raise the kids with her, so she can't take half in a divorce. It's happening. That was a good try.
No, what I'm saying is people who realize that you can have kids from having sex. They don't plan on it. They don't plan for kids. They don't want kids, but they still busting it down or indirectly promoting having kids out of wedlock. Is it safe to say that?
No. As somebody who probably fall into this shot is supposed to come at, the answer is no, because I promote condoms, which is preventative.
That's what I was about to say. If they're not using protection, then yeah.
I mean, we all know some fails though.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It ain't because these people ain't making babies because the condom is failing. Them motherfuckers ain't using one. That's the reality of it. I know we sit here and talk about condoms. Have y'all ever? I know we about to switch, not supposed to switch gears, but have y'all ever noticed in society how awkward incorporating a condom looks? No, I'm about to point to some examples.
You gotta get smooth with that.
I'm about to point to some examples. I'm just talking about in like pop culture, right? Have y'all ever noticed that they make like using a condom out in an awkward situation, but they like for instance, the guy asks like, "Oh, do you have a condom on?" Then it's always some weird situation where you gotta fumble with the drawer or something like that, or you gotta run into the other room, or like for instance in
put the condom behind the pillow.
No, I get that there's a smooth way. I'm just talking about if you ever notice in society how they make wearing a condom or finding a condom or getting a condom look so awkward and weird, but they make
that's just a plot point. I think that's because it's funny to see. I mean, right? Like in movies, that's what you're talking about, like movies and TV.
Yeah, it's always
TV, but it's
trying to put it on, and you hear it rapping, he fumbling with it, he dropping it.
But if you notice,
comic relief,
but if you notice though, they never make unprotected sex look awkward.
Yes, they do. When she showed up the house with baby.
No, I'm talking about during the act. They never make that look awkward. They're like the smoothest transition. They be in the back, like it's always look smooth and everything else. You be like, I know. When did these
But
motherfuckers have time to put?
what if that's protected sex too, though, and he just like real quick?
But they don't. But it doesn't appear that way. Have you ever looked at that scene and been like, yeah, he definitely put a condom on? You know damn well when you see that, you be like,
deep into this, Sweeney.
I'm just saying that this is the optics that we see in society. Anytime there's a condom involved in the situation, it's always an awkward situation. Either he like in what's the name of that movie with Jamie Foxx? Booty Call. When
That
this
nigga wrapped his whole body up.
he wrapped his whole body up in saran wrap, and I get that was comic relief. But anytime you see a condom introduced into any sex scene, they make the sex scene very awkward. But when there's no condom involved, it's the smoothest transition. Like it's almost as if they're actively encouraging people to have unprotected sex.
You're right.
No, it's because they be virgins. Virgin sex is awkward. So
man, they make any sex look awkward.
Don't be a menace.
They make any condom scene look awkward. Yeah, except for the one where they try to purposely make it look cool. Even like y'all remember in the movie with Nick Cannon, what was it? Can't Buy Me Love, or whatever the fuck the name of that movie was. That whole saying about taking off the rubber, and then like his father taught him how to do it cool, and then when he actually got in the situation, the shit looked real awkward and funny and weird.
We watched two different movies because I seen him take off the rubber smooth as hell and fix a car battery with it.
What about the wood? Was it the wood?
Even the wood was real awkward. He had to crawl to the other room and find his brother condom because he pulled out this condom that he ain't used.
All the people you're listing were virgins in these movies. I just think we should point that out. In both of those scenarios, those are virgins.
So isn't it kind of alarming that anytime you see a condom in the video or in the situation, it always got to be a virgin using it?
No, because it's not. Listen, it's always smooth ways to put a condom on.
They don't encourage it.
My thing is, why
does it have to be smooth?
Who
don't have to be smooth. It's a fucking condom.
Yeah. Who cares if it's smooth or not? Are you clapping cheeks? And that's at the end of the day, that's the goal, right?
So you see my piece. I see your body. We all know.
On the
bro,
right
we
way.
cannot hear you.
Trev, you talking to yourself.
Trev, we can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
You got that fancy.
We can't hear you, bro.
I hear you.
Hey, I'm gonna pretend to be his voice.
Oh.
So right now, this is where you gotta lay the condom down. And if Shorty don't want the condom, I'm just pregnant, baby. Haven't you seen the BET commercials? Me, myself, I don't play that. You know what I'm saying? I tell her like, hey, baby, look, you gotta put
Trev, bro, we cannot hear you, bro.
Struggle.
He laughing. He don't know we're laughing at him.
But just because we don't hear him don't mean he don't hear us.
I know he doesn't hear us either.
Hold on, wait.
Put in the back chat.
But that just made me think about how we were talking about double standards earlier. Is there a double standard between girls who make sure they have protection on them just in case if they have sex versus boys having protection with them when they have sex? Are they looked at differently?
So you talking about if somebody pull up on a joint and they get ready to bust it down and she pull out a drawer full of magnums and shit like that?
If she pulls out a condom, yeah.
They're gonna look at her as trifling, probably like, damn, you be doing this a lot. Yeah, they gonna do that. Yeah. What? You got all these goddamn especially if she pull out the roll of that motherfucker like
But she got a roll and she ain't using them.
You gonna look at her garbage can and try to see if
you know what? Actually, you know what? You might be on to something there, Shad. If she got a roll of it, that means I don't know.
Like if it's one missing, that means nigga she ain't used them. Now
it's
you
supposed to be she responsible though. Ain't that what they teaching? Though just be responsible, right?
That was my point that I was getting at. Is that how sometimes the double standards?
She damn if she do and she damn if she don't. It ain't even a double standard. She just damn regardless.
Right, because
I think we are
having protection because she's dependent on a guy to have it to avoid that very concept that you're saying that if she has protection, she's gonna be perceived as being a hoe, right?
You never even see women body
carry protection. Hold on. So she doesn't carry protection using that
leaving that up to the guy to have it.
But
So
I
that
was
was
say, I was gonna say, I think there's another layer
I've
to
never
it
seen
too.
them come to the register with a box. Like they scared to do that. They probably had somebody go in that bitch and buy it for them and just bring it to the car or something.
I was gonna add
I mean,
another layer to it
Amazon is
too.
a thing though. Like you can order them on Amazon, and you don't have to go.
Yeah, the fact that she know that you can order them lets you know that she wouldn't walk in the store and walk out of that bitch with a canister.
Not me.
I
I
was
walk
gonna-
on that counter proud, like, yeah, ring this up.
I was gonna say I was gonna add another layer to it also, that men don't tend to trust women with condoms either. Like trust the woman with his condom anyway, so he ain't gonna use the shit she give him anyway. Cause he like,
He
man,
didn't want to use it in the
Stop
first
lying.
place.
No lie. Say you ain't never used one that a woman gave you.
I always had my own.
My cousin told me he ties it
No,
off.
I learned. I was told. I was
pocket.
told never trust nobody else. Always bring your own rubbers to the table.
My
You know why I
cousin
know you
said
lying?
afterwards he
Because if
even
you hit
ties
a
it
raw,
up and takes it.
you got the audacity to.
I think a motherfucker that hit it raw don't give a shit about her having a condom or not. So
True.
That's what I'm
he
saying.
don't care whether she pulled one out or not. He was gonna go in there raw anyway. But like, I think there is another layer where men are told to bring their own. Like, you never trust a woman with your rubber because you know she can do anything to that mug. Even though I'm sure that it's few and far between, but that don't make it any less of a thing that men worry about.
Yeah, I bring my condoms and I take them with me afterwards.
Then tie that motherfucker up and
Why don't you just flush
Somebody
it down the
good point,
toilet?
Sonny.
Why don't you just flush it down the toilet? I'm not understanding.
Because I tie
Well,
them up.
I don't
So
think
what
you're
if you
supposed
get
to
caught
flush
and then
them down
you
the
pull
toilet.
it out and then utilize it? No, I'll wet it, then clean it with the tissue or the paper towel, make sure there's nothing leaking, put that boy in my pocket and dispose of it later.
Y'all need to stop going into this trifling, this cooch y'all be going into.
Man, look, we done saying the most
do all
sound and sensible women do men dirty. I ain't trying to hear all that. I'd rather a man
When you
protect
gotta do
himself at
all of
all times.
that, you don't need to be smashing. That
Please
says
do
a lot
all of
about
that.
you
Mike
smashing.
check prayer.
Please do all. Look, I ain't got no
we
random
can't hear you,
stolen kids out here in the toilet or otherwise. My strategy worked. That's all I'm gonna say.
You know what? Do what
Is it
works for you.
somebody's? Never mind. Let me shut up.
Do
I
what
think,
Go
works for
ahead.
you.
because I
You
think
gotta
men do it with,
expose yourself.
I think some men do it with all women. It doesn't matter what caliber of woman. If you don't want no kids, this is why I always say people are adamant on not having children. Don't have them. When you say I'm not having no goddamn kids, you don't have kids. And
Right.
it's because of that mindset. I don't care if you I don't care if you Michelle Obama. I'm about to roll this mug up, tie it off at the end. What
I
Mike
don't
said,
care.
make sure there ain't no leaks in there. Put it in my pocket. And I'm taking that bitch home and I'm gonna throw it in the trash.
Oh,
Just have a
But we
diamond
see-
in your pocket, huh?
I got trapped.
But we
I
see
deal
how
with that. It's
ineffective-
already on the crouch.
You got trap.
But we see how ineffective that is.
What does trap look
All
like?
the little
I got
measures you
trapped.
take.
So when
My
you can
husband
get
told
trapped,
me he was trying to
What
get
does
me
trap look
pregnant
like?
on purpose, and I didn't know. No, I wasn't in
He was
on
trying
the.
to, he was trying to get you pregnant on purpose. Can you explain that to me? How that looks?
it looks like they pink. Never mind. That's gonna give you.
It looked like when she say come at me, he'd be like, okay, that's what that looks
No,
like.
No,
Right.
it
Talking about some
looks
trap.
like it
No,
looks
no.
like pin her down on the thing from the she laying flat, can't move.
You sound
I
like
know
you
what it
talking
look
about
like.
your experience.
And you gonna still be throwing that thing back. You ain't
I don't know
doing
why
It's
y'all
hard to
lying.
move. It depends on
I don't know
how
why
strong
y'all
you
sit
are.
here lying.
No, what I mean by
Bullshit.
that, honestly, though, is the fact that I didn't know he was intentionally trying to get me pregnant.
It's a
Like, we
joke.
never talked about, you know what I'm saying? Like having kids or whatever. So and I remember the session
No,
in
but
which
that's not
when I
trapping.
got
Yeah, but that's
pregnant.
not. Yeah, but that's not
I
trapping.
know.
No,
Two
if it was
people
in
are,
his mind that he was trying to get me pregnant and I didn't.
actively if two people are actively engaging, then two people understand the consequences that come with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
if
like-
you're used to pulling out, right?
No,
And that's your
it's
method.
not a trap. I mean, that's the game that you play. It's risky.
Yeah, but you
I
gotta
mean, if
understand
two
how-
people
you gotta
agreed
understand-
on one thing and one person did not follow through, that's what I'm
yes,
saying.
I
It's
get
that
intention.
you
He
both
wasn't
should know
trying
that
to get
there's the risk
pregnant, but
there,
he was.
obviously.
But when you guys are in that moment, nothing's guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in that moment.
Because JR,
Hey,
you ain't
hold
never
on, let me
said,
get- hold
JR,
on, I
you ain't
got
never
one
said,
question
I
for
promise you
mistake.
I'm gonna pull
That
out.
was
You
a
ain't never
great
said that.
moment.
Hold on,
too.
wait a minute, mistaken. So you mean to tell me that he was intentionally trying to get you pregnant? He ain't never once during intercourse said, "I'm about to put a baby in you."
Mm-mm.
He ain't never said that. Man,
You
I
know?
call Cap. I
Yeah,
call.
you ain't never
I'm
said.
serious.
You ain't never said. Look, you know how sometimes
Who
y'all.
says
And I
that?
done heard.
Y'all be saying
A
that?
lot of dudes say that shit. They'll tell a woman, "I'm about to put a baby in you," straight up.
They do.
Yeah.
I say a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
shit.
I done heard niggas say
Look,
that too.
you,
Well,
you
I also
can't.
Baby number 2 and baby number 3, I'm pretty sure my ex-husband said those exact words. So to be fair.
I wouldn't even go that far though. But like some of the guys, don't y'all like be like, you know what I'm saying? I promise I'm gonna pull out or something like that. Like ladies, have y'all ever heard a man say, "Look, you know how sometimes they be begging and get the real thing after you don't gave it to him with the condom, and he like, yo, when you gonna let me get it right? You know, they be just keep pressuring you, and they say, I promise I'm gonna pull out, but then they, oh my God, it was just feeling too good.
That's the difference, though. That's not trapping somebody into having a baby. That's
That
just
is
lying to get in there raw. Like he ain't like a
That
dude.
No,
His
but
intention still ain't
No,
to
that's
give
a
her a
trap.
baby. No, no. All right. So what
finish
you mean by?
inside.
Oh no, wait, no. So to Mistaken's point, she said intention matters, right? So if a dude is just intent, like if he's intentionally telling you, "I'm going to give you, let me hit it raw. I promise you, I'll pull out." He's only doing it with the intention of hitting it raw. He's not doing it with the intention of trapping you with a
To
baby.
your knowledge, but
You know,
to
but it's
his,
a
he
possibility
might
that
be
she could
like,
still get.
I'm gonna
It's a
stay in
possibility
this
she could still
motherfucker.
get pregnant. It's a
But
possibility.
it,
Absolutely, but
Right. So
go ahead. Sorry.
it's a risky game that you guys are playing together. Anytime you
I
guys
won and
engage,
lost at the same time.
That's what I'm saying. It's ineffective. Because I get to 9 times out of 10, people who go in here having sex protected and they call themselves something. Like they label themselves something. At some point, they're gonna want to try the raw.
Can y'all hear me now?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell happened. I had to close the browser out. I don't know what the hell that was. Yeah, I kind of wanted to say something earlier.
We lost the point. You got to go back and tell us the whole.
Hopefully it's still relevant. So I was gonna say that if anybody agrees that there are just some people who shouldn't be parents at all. Like I know some people who are responsible for 20, 30, or even as high as 40 deletions between plans B and C, right? And I don't think that they should be parents. They obviously don't want to be parents. There are some people who don't have the nurturing skills. There are some people who are just not prepared, or like you said, like hyper individualist, selfish, whatever the case. But there are some people who you would pray to God would not reproduce. And I think that we have to be careful when we try to encourage everyone, right? Certain people just should not procreate. Some certain people don't deserve to procreate. And that might be a controversial take, but the hell with that. Certain people should not have children. I strongly believe that there are some people who just should not reproduce.
So I disagree with you for this reason.
Okay.
One, we live in the most technological advanced era in life. The standard of living today for the poorest person is greater than the standard of living 200 years ago for the richest person in this very day. Two, I know people who real messed up family situations, all that stuff went on to become successful or good people to be around. So I wouldn't like take the ability for them to have life because their parents messed up. I get where you're coming from, but I think that this is my personal opinion. I think that adopting that is why we got like 30 million deletions as opposed to 30 million additional people in the Black community. That's my personal opinion.
To me, I don't even think they should. I don't believe in deletions. I think they should either get a hysterectomy or vasectomy. I don't believe in deleting people. Right? That's not the solution. The solution is for you to just get fixed and stop. And I'm not the
Stop
people who
having
you're
sex?
describing. The people who you are describing are outliers, right? Those are circumstances that it happens, and I ain't going to doubt that. You're right on that, but it's far and rare. I think that there are many more cases where we see the failures of this, where you see degenerates, people who grow up to harm others, people who are users and abusers and everything else that harm people who are not supposed to fall victim to that. And that's the problem that I have with that. When you are prone to create degenerates that are going to contribute to the destruction of society, it goes against the survival of the fittest. It makes us a worse race of people when you when you procreate, and you probably shouldn't. And I'm not talking about the fact that I'm talking about not only just that, but the adverse effects and the abuse that child is probably going to go through because of parents
I
that
think
don't want them.
like we have to be careful about that because we don't want to get into eugenics, right? Where like these people are better people, because then you get into some serious problems that we've already had in our history. But to me, it's like anybody who doesn't want to be a parent should not be a parent, right? So like, yes, we're talking about should all women be mothers? Well, I mean, if a woman doesn't want to be a mother, she's probably not going to be a good one, right? And so like, then you're going to end up with children who have the trauma, who turn into, you know, the people that, you know, you might be referencing. To me, it's like, if you don't want to be a parent, I'm not going to encourage you to be a parent. Be a parent if you want to be one.
And I don't think I
They
said
don't
very
want to be a
much
parent,
different.
but they
But
want
what
to
I would
still have
challenge
sex.
you with is, I would ask you this question: which one of those people that I've described do you think should continue to procreate?
Neither one of them.
I mean, if it was left to me, it's
clear. They made it clear they didn't want to procreate.
I think that's what she said. Those who don't want to procreate.
But that's not what I said. I said there are
I
certain
heard
people
what he
who also
said.
should. Besides that, right? Not the people who just don't want to, but some people who just won't do a good job at it, right? Mostly the people who are not preparing to be parents, right? The people who.
Sweeney just told you can't prepare though.
No, so what he's saying is some of y'all just don't need your life is funny. You act funny, even the way you think
And
is
then
funny.
that's subjective.
You do not need to be
biased to the
that
person looking on the outside.
to be carried on. Just stop it at you.
Yeah, that's
Let's
unfair.
not keep it going.
That's unfair.
I mean, at the
who's
start,
who's the judge of that though? Like,
That's what I'm saying. It's unfair.
No, the judge
Well,
is.
listen, we're talking about encouraging people, right? There are certain
The
people who I'm
teachers,
going to
when those
judge
kids
and not
get into the
encourage them to be
school, we gotta
parents.
deal
It's
with
it's a judgment
The
call.
the thing about it,
It's a
you
If
gotta
your father
be,
told you
you've got to be careful
to be
about making
fruitful and
that call for
multiply and
someone
go bring me
else.
some grandbabies.
He's just telling you. We're just having a
I'm just telling you, I'm not going to encourage certain people to be parents. And nobody going to stop me from doing that shit neither. There's certain people who I won't encourage. I don't give a fuck how y'all feel about it. Certain people I will not encourage to procreate. It is what it is. That's just how I feel about it.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
the
going
people-
to, I'm talking about encouraging. I didn't say I was going to
encourage.
try to lawfully stop anyone. I'm not going to jump in the way of somebody's dick aiming for a pussy. What I'm not going to do is encourage certain people to procreate. That's all I said. Certain
So would you
people
encourage
don't need the
sex?
encouragement, and they won't get it from me.
Would you encourage sex?
If you are fixed, go right ahead. Have at it. Do as you will. I'm not the sex police either. I just said I won't encourage. We were talking about encouraging people to be parents. That's where my argument stops. There's certain people I will certainly never encourage. That's just what it's going to be. No, there's nothing anybody can say to convince me otherwise, because
I
I
don't
think
think
it's
nobody's trying to
weird to
convince you
encourage
otherwise.
people. I think it's weird to encourage people who I feel like are going to be bad parents and are going to be the cause of someone else's detriment. I can't see.
How do you know they're gonna be bad
Trick.
parents until they have it?
You
Sweeney
never
said you
know,
can't
but
prepare for
I'm
it.
just not going to encourage certain people. It's
Well,
a judgment call that I
that's
will
what
make.
it is, Sweeney.
As far
I
as certain people,
hear
I'm
you.
like,
I mean, I
they
hear
probably
you,
shouldn't be
Trev,
parents,
Trev,
and I won't
I
encourage
agree.
them. I'm not going to police them. I'm not going to stop them, but I damn sure won't encourage them.
Trev, have you ever heard of this saying that strong men create weak men and weak men create strong men?
Yeah.
But even with
Do you
with
think
your
that
strong-
the people who are the who are born from the weakest of us have the opportunity to be the strongest of us within that next generation? Oh, like, okay, so let me
No,
so
that's
like on
perfect.
We could go to there, or we could say, or we could say, okay, when you start looking at people who don't have a father in the household and what happens with them, right? All of us has championed that whole spiel, right? So we're just talking about outcomes, right? Likely outcomes. That's all I'm talking about. Likely outcomes.
so
they probably gonna
so
take as a parent.
Trev,
I'm not gonna encourage them.
I'm with you on the. I'm not even challenging your thought because you entitled to your opinion. And you right for your opinion, right? My thing is, so like with somebody like say a LeBron James, right? I don't think you get a LeBron James from a two-parent. So I don't know if I talked about this year recently, but one of my biggest a failure I think of mine was me trying to be so much for my kids. I might shelter them more than I wanted to, so I had to expose them more to the world. So it's certain things that you only get through certain hardships that a lot of kids who have the greatest parents in the world may never experience and be like, because there's an opposite end.
Let me ask you this, Marcus. Did Michael Jordan have both his parents? Wasn't his dad in his life until he was grown?
He did.
All right.
Yes.
Rest my case.
I said LeBron though. LeBron didn't.
You said LeBron. You said LeBron, and I said.
Yeah.
So, but
what about AI?
You saying he got it because he had a single parent. I could say Michael Jordan got it because it was two parents, and you can't negate the fact that LeBron had a positive male figure in his life at the most important time, right?
Not really.
His coach? No. Didn't he go?
Yeah, he did. He had a coach.
So by that way,
y'all just argued against each other and agreed against each other.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Only we can do that.
I also agree with this point that I think some people like so I was going into this to describe this, where me trying to teach my kids and give them everything and protect them from everything. I have personally seen, like, my daughter, she don't think nobody's supposed to be at the zoo with her. She don't think nobody's supposed to be at the park with her because she got her own park at our house. We got a park. She don't think a lot of stuff that normal kids are. She don't even think she's supposed to play with any. Well, it's changing now, but she didn't think she was supposed to play with people she wasn't related to. Like, it's something from insulating kids and doing everything for them. Sometimes you rob them of something. That's all I was saying. And as somebody who is from the other side, like, my father died when I was real young. My parents were together before they died, but after that, it was pretty much me raising, because just the scenario, right? And it's strength that came through that I would love to give my kids, but I don't think they'll get it without the tragedies that I've been through in my life. And I struggle with that to this day.
So, Marcus, I'm not going to try to take away from any of your points. The only thing I'm going to say is that when people go to see a psychologist and shit like that, right, and they start to, the professionals who break your life down, they start to talk about all these missing factors, and a lot of it goes right down to your parents, right? Okay, right? So you're going to say you go right down to the parents and what was their home situation like and all of that, right? And you realized where the breakdown was, and a lot of it is the neglect that the parents did. And again, I'm not policing no dicks or pussies. The only thing that I'm telling you is that I'm not going to encourage certain people to be parents. For me, I just won't encourage them. There ain't no.
Yeah, I already conceded that I'm not challenging.
None of that shit. I just won't encourage certain people because I know what the likelihood is, what the product is, what the likely product is from that completely dysfunctional person or persons. And that's the only thing that I'm going to say. I just won't encourage them because I don't want to see children go through that. You know what I'm saying? I hate to see children go through pain. I hate to see children go through trauma that they don't deserve because of parents who weren't ready, or not even just the ready, because we understand the preparation, but certain people are just going to be parents that suck, and you can tell.
Well, I think this is a matter of beliefs and what principles you live by. Because if you don't live by any principles, well, I'm not going to even say that. I would say if you don't live by the biblical principles, then it's easier for you to say, yeah, don't you can go in here and fuck, but don't have no kids if you can't take care of them.
I think hold on. I got to respond to that because that was directed to me. I
didn't direct it to you.
I think if you live by the biblical principles, you should stand out on a ledge and attack people who are in the church currently molesting children. I think that should be your focal point as opposed to people having inanimate sex, because it's a whole lot of lawsuits and a whole lot of cases and a whole lot of people jumping up every single day. I think that's where you should spend most of your energy when you want to point the finger or say you're not standing on biblical.
I didn't point the finger at nobody.
This man just toy. And then his choir director giving him dome after church. And you want to talk to me about having consensual night? Oh, get out of here, bro. Get out of here.
First of all, I ain't pointing the finger at nobody. I just said it's a matter of what you believe in. Trev, if he don't believe in those principles, it's easier for him to tell somebody that they shouldn't do something, or they shouldn't, or he wouldn't encourage them to have kids. I'm saying the principles I believe in, if you're not going to have kids, you shouldn't be having sex either. But if your coochie can get wet and you fertile, I believe you should be getting married so you can have those kids. I think it's a cart before the horse type thing in order to protect your salvation. That's just my belief. I'm not going to tell nobody this is what you should do unless they come and ask me, what are my thoughts on it? What is my perspective?
That's not true.
So
It
let me
is
ask you
true.
this,
I
Darwin.
done had so
You
many
just did a whole
conversations.
video.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask
I
you this,
got
Darwin.
recordings.
Let me ask you this, Darwin. So let me ask
I
you
got
this.
record. Hold on, wait.
I-
I got recordings to prove that that's true. I have so many people come and ask me, what process should they take to make sure that they're aligned to a specific biblical principle, or is the process they're currently taking aligned? I got recordings of that.
My detective test determined that was a lie. My detective test determined that was a lie.
Hey, Darwin, I got to ask you this. So do you think that the intention for sex is purely for procreation?
Yeah, I believe it. I've done the research for it.
Got
and
it. So after you and your wife get past the phase of where you can safely have children, should you still be allowed to fuck your wife?
Yeah.
Why? If the purpose is only for procreation, why are you still fucking your wife?
So when you say only is purely, when you say only, do you also mean pure? When you say purely, do you also mean only? Because you change it to only.
Say what? I understand what you're saying, but that sounds like some
Do I
bullshit.
think sex is? When you first asked the question, you said, "Do I think sex is purely for procreation?" Is that true or not true?
Okay, so
then you
all right,
said,
so
"Is it
okay, well
solely?"
let's just say
only?
only instead of purely. Then let's say only, right?
No, I don't. No, I don't think it's only for procreation.
So you walk in the back. I hear you.
No, you changed the word, and I'm aligning in my response.
You know what? Was anyone else on the panel confused about that shit, or just Darwin?
What? You changed the word.
Even animals have sex for pleasure. I watch National Geographics, like those shows. So if we're talking,
all right, so then, all right, so here go your checkmate anyway, Darwin. So here go your checkmate anyway. So if you were saying now that sex is not only for procreation, right? If it's not only for procreation, then why not let the people fuck anyway? The people that I said, how I phrased it, I said, get fixed, get a hysterectomy, get a vasectomy, and fuck. That's what I said. But you saying that is the way you were directing it was only for procreation. That's why I asked you.
When you was making your statement, I was interrupting, and I was asking, are you telling people to do that outside of marriage or within marriage? You never answered that. We never got to that part.
He used a wife as the example. He said, in marriage, after you are past the point of having kids, do you think you should be able to have sex after the point where you're no longer trying to have kids?
He was talking about when Trev was making his point. Bruiser asked
was
him
originally making his point.
Yeah, he never got to
I was
answer.
being overtalked. I was interrupting. I shouldn't have been interrupting, but when I was interrupting, it wasn't even being heard.
Yeah, so he really just a misunderstanding. But
that's all it is.
If you can answer the question that he asked you, or if you want to.
I'll answer the question. What question you want me to answer?
I answered your question. I believe that you're supposed to. The whole purpose of you having sex is to reproduce and continue your seed and your bloodline.
Now, when you say whole purpose, do you mean sole purpose?
That's the sole purpose. And sexual intercourse and the pleasure that comes with it, I think that's a reward for you and your wife to indulge in together. That's a benefit. That's the cherry on top. But the whole purpose. And I could explain why it is that, but you might not want to hear that.
So, no, I don't mind it. But what I'm saying is that if you're telling me now that the whole purpose, sole purpose is for procreation, after you beyond the age of geriatric pregnancy and everything else, I understand in biblical days you could have kids at whatever type time and all that, but how we are biologically, how we set up right now, it's dangerous to try to have children in your 50s, 60s, and all of that. So that's why I'm saying, if that's the sole purpose, then you probably shouldn't fuck your wife anymore by the time you're past that phase of having children.
I get what you're saying, because it's like if the purpose of life is to love thy neighbor, right? But like you can also enjoy chocolate or speedboats. Like I get it. Like you can have a purpose to something, but then also it can also do something else for you.
Right. It's not the sole purpose. It's one of the purposes.
Well, look at it like this. When God made, and I'll just be short, I don't want to try to preach nothing or some shit. When God made Adam didn't have a wife. It was just him. He didn't even know anything about sex or anything like that. This wasn't even in his mind. He saw the animals. When he saw the animals procreating and they had something, then that's when he said, okay, that's what I want. Then God created Eve and it became
Adam
a
didn't
thing.
say nothing like that.
But even then at that,
based on that story, God saw that.
hold on real quick. Let me just finish it. Even at that point, they wasn't even meant to procreate. It was only until the fall. It was only until they sinned and they became woke or whatever you want to call it. And then he told them whenever he casted them out, be fruitful and multiply. That was his commandment, to procreate the entire world.
That's correct.
It was only just supposed to be those two. So the whole reason why you were supposed to go and have sex was procreation. The sexual gratification and dopamine you get from it is the benefit of being able to join as one flesh.
Let me ask you this one question then. So, the scripture that talks about that if you're going to basically sin, have sex, ideally you shouldn't have sex and follow Christ, right? But since you can't, it's better that you get married, right? You know what I'm talking about?
You saying if you can't control your urges, it's better. There's an actual scripture for that. Yeah. If you can't control, it's best you get married if you can't control your urges.
Correct. So it wasn't referring to creating babies. It was referring to having sex.
Yeah, it was referring to having sex. It wasn't even on the
Not with the intention. That's my point. So God did intend sex to account for more than just making kids.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's not just only procreation. That's why I said the dopamine and the pleasure you get from having intercourse is a cherry on top.
Darwin, which animals did Adam see having sex with, and God was like, "Yeah, I gotta lace you with something."
Well, I could do this. I could do what me and Sweeney. I could do what me and Sweeney did, and I can invite you on a call, and Bishop can break all this stuff down with the concordance.
So the bishop
might not want that type of education.
The bishop told you that God saw that. The bishop
it doesn't explicitly say that God that he saw the animals having sex, but he did notice that they all had companions and he did not. Whatever that may look like.
They had companions and they were procreating.
Sweeney, you was on that call too?
Yeah.
You joined the same church? Y'all.
I didn't join the church.
We don't go to church. We just was on a phone call. We just asking questions.
Okay.
We was debunking the whole polygyny thing. How people keep pushing multiple wives, and he was just breaking it all down. And he's saying multiple wives is an animalistic behavior that men adopt from animals. It was never supposed to be like that.
According to Christians, right?
It ain't Christian. When this conversation it ain't had nothing to do with Christianity. Christianity came thousands of years later.
So this was his opinion?
No, it was the word of God. It wasn't no opinion.
So when I asked you, is it according to Christians?
It ain't had nothing to do with Christian. It was the the Old Testament. Christianity ain't come until after Jesus died.
So no religion says you can have polygyny?
I don't know what the other religions say. I was just telling you.
When I asked you according to Christianity, all right, dog.
That's what I'm saying. If you come into the call, he can break all this stuff down to you. There's so many scriptures that tell you you're supposed to leave your mother and your father and join what? One wife. In every story in the Bible where men had multiple wives, it was always some type of dysfunction. Motherfucking
so the Quran doesn't exist then, Darwin, right? Gotcha.
He's just saying that he don't follow the Quran. He's just strictly.
That's why, Shan. That's why I asked him according to Christianity 4 times.
Well, he's saying Christianity because so you saying Christianity, but he's trying to inform you that the Bible is not all. Christianity comes after Jesus, but before Jesus, that wasn't considered Christianity, right? Is that what you're saying, Derwin?
Yeah. Jesus didn't even call himself a Christian. It was the Pharisees that called people who followed Christ.
But basically, so what?
It was just
so
a label
Marcus
just to understand,
saying,
to identify and label people.
Yeah, so what Marcus is saying is okay, we understand that, but according to the Bible.
That's why I say the Bible. I don't never say according to Christians. I just say according to the Bible. Because Christians is not the only ones who believe in that. You have Jewish people believing that. It's other religions that believe in the same thing. And it's not necessarily a Christian thing, but when you make it a Christian thing,
ain't the Talmud based on the Old Testament?
It's a Torah. They some of the books that's there.
It's based on the Old Testament, right? Was polygyny illegal in the Old Testament? Interesting.
It was allowed.
No, it wasn't allowed. God never prescribed men to be polygamous. It was never prescribed. It wasn't even
a scripture. Hold on. It was allowed.
Let her read it, Sweeney. And I promise you, she's gonna read a descriptive scripture and not a prescriptive one.
Right. That's what I said. I know there's a difference between description and prescription, but there were a lot of things that was tolerated because of the culture of the times.
Yeah, it was under the old law.
Exactly.
It was under the old law, the law of Moses. And what people are doing, and you can back me on this mistaken because it sounds like you're going where I'm about to go. What people are doing is they're taking the old law and they're embracing that word as a way to justify having multiple wives in the new covenant. Because right now we in a new law or new covenant right now. And what they're trying to do is saying, even though the new covenant has told you that you're supposed to have one wife, what they're doing is saying, no, that the Old Testament or the old covenant told me I can. So that's what a disconnect is. And it's to the benefit of those who want to have multiple wives. They can just go back to the old law and say, yeah, man. But you cannot have the old law because old law is impossible to live under the old law because there's a priestess lineage called in Leviticus or Levites or whatever called Aaron or something like that. And his bloodline, the registry was destroyed.
What's the New Testament say about divorce?
Divorce? What does the New Testament say about divorce?
You can get divorced under sexual, what's it?
Immorality.
Infidelity.
Sexual immorality. I think abandonment is another one. I think he knew what it was. I think he just want to ask questions. But you know what it is in white.
Oh, I do. I definitely do.
There you go then. So I mean, like I said, it's all clear, man. It's just you got to figure out what you believe in, and if you have a misunderstanding on how you interpret the Bible, it's best to go up under a bishop or somebody. It ain't even got. I wouldn't even say go that far to say a bishop. Just get you a concordance or whatever they call it, or study under somebody who's been practicing word. The guy that we got on the phone call with been doing it for 50 years. So, I mean, we even had a conversation with today. That's how I know all that stuff. Like the old law is whenever you had to burn an animal or something, animal sacrifice. You had to find something that had no sin. But Jesus came, those old ways was gone. So everything that he commanded in the New Testament, that's the way you're supposed to live. But people still want to choose to go by the old law. And that's their prerogative. That's what they want to do, then that's what they do. But just know.
Does sexism is sexism in the Bible, Darwin?
Sexism in the Bible. Can you give me an example of sexism so I can
like what we were talking about earlier?
Like saying, oh, you a man, you should take the garbage out. Or something like that.
Okay, so sexism is, I think, Sweeney, you have read the definition before. Is discriminating against or different treatment based on gender, something like that, y'all said.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that there was sexism?
Sexism is the prejudice.
I would say it was in the Bible, but I don't think nobody labeled that as sexism. I think labeling it, once you put a label on something, it gives you the opportunity to try to do away with it or address it as immoral or moral. But it had that type of behavior was not even labeled. That was just a way of things. Men were stronger. Men were called to do things that women weren't called to do. wasn't a matter of sexism. It was just a matter of that's the way the world is. Just like M. White said, everything come back. You can Drewski snap people back into their order or some shit like that, whatever he said. It wasn't a matter of sexism. So like you could look at the Ukrainian war. Is that a sexism? Or is that just war? That's just a matter of
it's both. It's literally both.
And when the motherfucking bullets start flying, nobody's saying this is sexism. That's what I'm saying. Like when the bombs start dropping, it's
But y'all act like it's not female. I mean, in Israel, the women have to enlist in the military as well.
In Israel,
everybody goes into the military.
not here though. I think they're trying to take women out of special forces.
Hey, Dara, Ms. Parker said the old law is the new law.
The fact that those different laws got old and new and has contrast between it is a contradiction in his own statement. She might have been just being sarcastic though.
She's a Hebrew Israelite woman, I believe, or Israelite woman. So her teaching is gonna be different than yours.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so, and that's why right. That's what I premised my response to Trev. I said it's a matter of beliefs. I think I said that it's a matter of what you believe in, whether you should prescribe.
I think the difficulty you run into is instead of saying I believe this to be the truth, you make a statement that if you're not living by this, then that.
But before I said it, I premised my statement on it all comes down to what you believe in, and that's why I said it depends on the principles, whether you believe in them or not. And I kind of tried to premise that out before I even made a statement because I didn't want it to be about people feeling attacked from what I believe in. That's why today I kind of drew back on a lot of stuff.
But that's like saying with no disrespect and then proceed.
Well,
I mean, if you take it as disrespect, then I guess.
No, I'm saying that phrasing. I didn't take what you just did as disrespect. I was able to respond to that.
Okay, I do want to say this because I've gone to church, right? And when you go to church, they don't they preface whatever they're gonna say. Like whatever they believe is what they stand on. Like they don't sugarcoat it. They don't change it up for who's ever in there. Like they say that this is what they believe. So do you guys think if somebody truly believe that that's the truth, should they have to tailor it a certain way for people?
No, you don't tailor it.
Or should they stand on it and say, well, this is what I believe. This is what people should do.
They should 100% stand on it. What you shouldn't do is attack nobody else.
There's a balance. And I'll tell you.
Well, like where's the attack at if somebody says that people should be living their lives like this? Where's the attack?
All right. So I believe that you should have as many kids as you can afford, right? And if I say anybody that's not having as many kids they can afford is a devil or a waste of a life, or if I add an extra point past my belief and add a sign, characteristic, trait, belief system, or something onto others who don't share the same thing, you've crossed into attack category.
So I'll say this: the way you deliver your message. So when people are preparing a sermon, they have to understand who their audience is and who they're talking to, right? And how they convey the message. There are people who you have to understand who's in your audience, and you don't want to chase people out of the seats, right? There was an exodus from the church by men because of the way that pastors were beginning to demonize men and patronize women. And we've seen that mass exodus from the church of the men, particularly black men. It just is what it is. So pastors are
straight black men, not just black men, straight black men.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that they have to be conscious of it because you're going to lose seats. And if you lose seats, you lose funding. You can't do as much. It's just one of them things. So you have to make it palatable. You have to understand who your audience is. You have to be careful how you convey your message because at the end of the day, it still is a business. It's unfortunate that it has to be like that, but it is what it is. People have the option of going to church. And if they are not sometimes entertained and they're going to fall asleep in your pews, then guess what? You're going to lose people. So they deliver what they believe in to an extent, but the way that they deliver it and how they message it is going to be dependent on who's sitting in the seats and how they feel about the audience.
So
not to say everybody's going to behave like that, but I'm just telling you from things that I've seen. I spent a lot of time in church, and I can tell you from what I've seen and from people that I talk to. I know people who do it. Let's just say that. And I'm going to tell you that you have to be conscious of who's sitting in your seats.
Well, look, if you look at it from the church standpoint, yeah, you don't waver your word. But you JR, you phrase it as if people are coming to hear you preach the word. They already, know what they're going to. They got one thing to come to. They want to know the gospel. They want to know what's going on. So yeah, you don't change it. And then Tread's point, yeah, you're right. If you're operating the church or keeping the church operational is contingent upon people tithing, you have some pastors that will shift the message and cater to the ones that's tithing. And if it's more females, the message is probably going to appeal to the ones that's filling the pews. That's sad. You're not supposed to do that. The pastor is supposed to be obligated to preach the word and not use favoritism to it.
Yeah.
But you're also obligated to read the word yourself as you attend the church.
Right.
But I
And
will
the
say that
bishop will move you if you ain't filling them seats. No, the
you said
bishop will
he
move
will.
you. The
What do you
bishop will
mean,
move
like,
you if you're not keeping them seats full.
and then you got and then if you look at just a lot of the stuff we talk about, like I can kind of see why a big portion of men will leave the church. For example, if you look at the past two King talks we had, a lot of the stuff we were saying was biblically correct. Imagine if we said that and we had 1,000 men in there and they wasn't okay with keeping it in their pants and they wanted to have premarital sex, or they want to tell their kids to wear a condom and we're telling them that they shouldn't even be having sex, period. You could probably see why we will lose a lot of male members that way by just being purely strict to the word. So whenever you talk about who's leaving the church, you got to go see why they're leaving the church, because it's very hard to if you read the Bible, JR, you're gonna find it very hard to cater the word to the woman. It's really hard to do that. You know what I'm saying? They would have to be making scriptures up. But if they're preaching the word to word, from scripture to scripture, it's really hard to do that. You get what I'm saying? And you're still obligated to read the word on your own, show yourself to be approved.
All right, let me get to these super chats. BZ formerly Baby Zaddy $5 says estimated cost of custody battle can range between $2,500 and $50,000 or more, depending on the complexity of the case. Tell me this isn't planned. Ekin A $5 says there's no old law or new law. Polygamy is made by God, so don't make up laws. Polygamy is not a sin, but it's not for everyone due to financial. I want to thank everybody that has come out tonight to support. Thank you guys for your patience as well throughout the stream. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and do me a favor. Go ahead and share the stream. Catch us next Thursday. Let's make sure we support each other. Give everybody a follow and support everything that everybody has going on. And we'll see y'all next time.